Good morning. Welcome in on a Monday here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're here on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well on a busy Monday where we've got some I think the NCAA committee's got some jokes with their selection process a little bit. I think they're being a little funny with us.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not mad.
I'm not mad either. I'm thrilled.
I don't now there's some bad seedings.
Okay.
But I don't know about like if I'm typically on a Sunday, post cleaning up the kitchen, there's some consternation, hand wringing, who's in, who's not in. But what happens is when you have so many teams in their conference tournaments that weren't going to get in. I mean, you watch 4 spots evaporate between
Oregon. Or are we not even counting that one?
Well, I'm counting Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon.
North Carolina
State, and who's the third one?
I don't know. There's the Mid-American.
Yep.
And maybe what about the VCU and Duquesne? It was a bid Steeler.
Yep, that's right. Duquesne is.
So
yep.
I mean, there's 4 right there, and it's like, well, once that happens, there were teams I felt like
that were going to get left out.
Well, no, I just felt like 24 hours earlier they were in.
Yeah, right. But it's math, right?
So it's just simple math.
It's a counting exercise.
I don't know. I get some of the gripes.
There's some teams I don't think belong in, frankly. Mostly Virginia. Virginia doesn't feel like they belong in to me. Outside of Virginia, I didn't have a ton of problems with who got at large teams, at least.
If Virginia's out, who's in?
Well, I mean, you know my answer to that. I wanted Indiana State to get in.
Yeah.
I thought they deserved to get in.
Because I think, I don't know, maybe I'm just the contrarian, but I try to be sensible, right? So every Sunday night or Monday morning, and people will talk about this, right? And only twice it's really been relevant, right? Like I think these teams are going to make a run. Maybe a VCU,
sure,
or a UCLA.
Where they were a first floor.
Yeah, or a UCLA, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So it almost never matters.
So, but that doesn't mean that those teams in the short term can't be head scratching,
and that doesn't mean we should excuse the committee for questionable
but I think
decision.
I think we're focused on the wrong thing. I think they spend an inordinate amount of time parsing through first 4, last 4 plans, right? Nobody ever has any problems with the seedings. The actual seedings, I think, are a bigger issue than
like Clemson at a 6.
Well, I told I don't.
You thought Clemson was overrated for a while.
They're not, and they're a dog. Weird. They're an underdog
at 6
as a 6-11.
Yeah, it's because they're a bad 6. I mean, they're a really bad 6.
No, I didn't have. Some people had a little consternation over Kansas. I kind of said all along they're closer to a 4 than a 3.
Yeah, well, so especially with their current situation.
Well, you felt like I think some maybe felt like they were going to get a mulligan.
No, I don't. I mean, maybe some did. I can't speak for them, but I looked at it and I go, "That's a team that's falling."
Yeah,
I didn't think they were. I don't think they belonged on the 3 line. Your Tar Heels got a 1, which you weren't expecting.
Well, I knew they were going to be the first 2 or the last one.
Yeah. So where with Tennessee got upset, that really opened the door.
So I felt like, and I think maybe people had them closer to that 1 line than I did going into last week when we were talking about.
I texted you as soon as Tennessee lost. I go, "Oh, there goes your 1."
Yeah, but I thought it seemed like Carolina was already in that spot.
They were in position to move in for sure
ahead of Tennessee because the conversation happened quick.
Yeah.
I
thought of Tennessee,
and maybe it was solidified once Arizona lost.
Sure, yeah.
Because you needed both those things to happen. It wasn't just a Tennessee thing. Because I felt like it was Tennessee, Carolina, or Arizona. We're all playing for that
for the last one.
Yeah. And I think I'm right because Arizona was right there, and they're obviously the top 2 in the West region. But Boise's a 10. I'm a weird guy, right? Like I watch a lot of basketball. Like I'll tell you about South Florida or New Mexico, some of these teams, right? That I'm a big whack Mountain West guy.
Yeah.
Right. Somebody's going to run in. I think Boise is grossly underseeded. I think Clemson is overseeded. So I think those are more
relevant to how actually plays out, right?
Yeah.
I do think, I will say, it's relevant. And listen, it doesn't really matter to me. I don't have any connection to Indiana State except for I think my uncle worked there for a while. Like it doesn't matter to me.
I would have liked to have seen him in. But I mean, I'm with you on that.
It's relevant to these teams because getting into the NCAA tournament, it's a big deal for them just to make it, right, from a mid-major or from a low-major conference. And the other thing is, and I don't know, maybe this shouldn't matter to me, but it does, a lot of times this ends up costing a guy his job.
Yeah.
The difference between an NIT.
No, I get that. Or maybe making more money.
Yeah, or making more money or getting an opportunity somewhere else, right? They're like, oh, he hasn't made any NCAA tournaments. Why would I hire that guy? It's like, well, he won 28 games. That's pretty good. He lost to a really good Drake team. Like, what do you want me to do here, right? Drake's kind of the same way. They've missed out on a couple NCAA tournaments because they get to that final, haven't been able to get over the hump. And does that make D-Rock less of a good coach? No. We look at the resume and it's not there on paper the way you would want it to be. So, like in the actual basketball games and who ends up winning the NCAA tournament, you're right. It doesn't matter at all. Like, I don't need Michigan State in this field. I don't.
Yeah, that's a weird hill for you to be dying on, but because they've earned the right. Whether we like them or not is kind of inconsequential.
How have they? They're 19-14. I get that they have in a Big Ten that is not crazy this year.
Well, hold on. Remember, you a couple of these guys out here, you guys have been beating this Big East drum, right? I think the committee,
we can get to the Big East,
kind of let you know what they felt about the difference between the Big Ten and the Big East. Not sure why, but we've had this conversation since I've been back, right? And we haven't really been able to agree. The middle of the pack in the Big East versus the middle of the pack in the Big Ten.
Sure.
And it appears that the middle of the pack in the Big Ten
was valued higher. And I don't think there's any difference between St. John's and Michigan State. I don't.
Yeah. I understand that. I do. I just don't think with the tone and tenor in which people come across in saying it, that doesn't make it any more true.
Well, okay. And I've said this all along. I don't see
we can say it emphatically, but that doesn't make it any more
I don't
true.
think there's a huge difference between the second best conference and the fifth best conference. I don't.
Okay.
Like everybody after
the metrics would probably agree with you.
Yeah, it's Big 12 and then it's everybody else. KenPom has Big East one place. Net Rankings has Big East a different place. They have Big 10 ahead of them. Like, look, depending on what metrics you look at, you're going to get different results. But the main point is 2 through 5, not a ton of difference. I'm not sitting here banging the drum for St. John's. I'm okay that they got left out. But if you're leaving St. John's out, I don't know why Michigan State gets in.
Well, it doesn't work like that, though, because
I see those teams as essentially equivalent. Okay. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so so you have to pick one, right?
I don't know that you do. You could have picked Indiana State instead.
Yeah, I just don't think you're going to get that case made.
That's fine. I know that that's not a thing that's actually going to happen, but I would rather see either an Indiana State.
So we're talking personal preference. Like, what's the merit? The net?
The merit of the
like to stand on that business. Like,
my merit for Indiana State is it. And listen, the metrics aren't going to play this out the way in an appealing way.
Okay,
and I'm acknowledging that.
All right. Okay. So I'm cool. Now I'm listening.
I'm not here to say that Indiana State has, by the numbers, a better case than either of those teams. Because you look at what Michigan State is, 15th or something, or 18th in KenPom, which is usually what I go by. St. John's is 25th. Indiana State's a lot further down. I am saying that we know who Michigan State and St. John's are by this point in the season.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of times really good mid-major teams, we don't know who they are by this point in the season, and I'd rather give the opportunity to the team that hasn't had a chance to beat good teams all year.
That's kind of where you lost me.
That's fine. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, and which is understandable, but there's a lot of arbitrary things in there.
It's fine.
Right? Well, it's really not, though, because that's not how the world works. So
I think it is a lot more how the world works than we realize. A lot of it's arbitrary.
Oh,
And a lot of it's personal preference.
The thought process is arbitrary when the numbers are not. You want one to supersede the other. Now, if you told me in conjunction with, okay, here, all things being equal, man, the power conferences have had their chance.
That's literally what I just said.
But all things aren't equal.
Okay, fair.
Because you're not winning the numeric side. You're not winning the metric side of it. So I think you have to. There has to kind of be a
I mean, I win the metric side of it with Virginia. I don't with St. John's or Michigan State, and that's fine. I do with Virginia.
Yeah,
Virginia is a bad inclusion.
I was surprised.
That's a bad inclusion. They're not. They're a meh team. They've been a meh team all year. They get their doors blown off regularly and barely break the 40s.
I'm not championing Virginia, but be careful when you're filling out your bracket.
I'm not
out of disdain picking against Virginia in the first round.
I'm a big Tony Bennett guy in terms of him as a coach. That team could very easily make a run. They could very easily get bounced in the first round. Like that's there's a ton of variance with Virginia because when they can't figure out how to score, they're in a lot of trouble and they're gonna get their doors blown off. If they can figure out how to score just enough, then yeah, they could beat anybody in the country. They're a hugely high variance team. That I don't think warranted inclusion in the NCAA tournament. Now, I'm actually okay with only the 3 Big East teams in. Now, it's a weird number, right? You look at the Big East and you go, hey, I kind of always assume that's a 4 bid league minimum. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think any of these teams that got left out individually should be in, right? I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I'm here for St. John's or Villanova or, whoever else is, Providence. I totally understand each of those teams individually getting left out. It's just that lands you at 3 instead of 4, right? Which is it's a weird number for the Big East.
Yeah.
And I don't, again.
Well, how would you like to be like Pittsburgh?
Yeah. Yeah. You're not wrong.
Pittsburgh got to be looking at Virginia and saying,
That's what I mean. Virginia is a weird inclusion. I don't get it at all. I thought they were out by a stretch.
Yeah, that's a definite head scratcher. I just think so many teams, and it's not far fetched. Some people act like they were surprised, but I think we said all along if Nebraska won the Big Ten tournament, there are 7.
I thought they were a 7 if they made the championship.
And clearly they were trending in the direction of being a 7.
100%. Yeah.
That should not have been a real surprise.
If they won the Big Ten tournament, I wouldn't have been shocked if they got a 6.
Yeah, well, they clearly would have been a 7. You probably would have had some folks that would have been a discussion point.
But I think they were a rock solid 7 if they made the championship.
There were times you watched them play the other day, and you're like, they're pretty good.
Well, Friday night especially, and then the first half against Illinois
kind of hit the wall.
Yeah,
but
and they couldn't. They ran into Terrence Shannon.
Yeah, as did the rest of the conference.
Yeah, as everybody else did, right? Man. He was on one this weekend.
No, he's that dude.
No, I know.
No,
he's not 40 a night. Come on. He's really, really good.
He's the guy that I said a month ago.
Yeah,
should have been in serious discussion with Zach Edey as Player of the Year, and that was a month ago. He hadn't even put up the circuit. He hadn't even gone on his run yet.
That's fair.
This dude, he's unbelievable.
But listen, he gave Nebraska a 40 piece. You can't tell me he's been doing this. He hasn't been given
not what
40
I said.
pieces.
It's not what I said. It's not what I said.
Yes, he is that guy. He also was on a heater.
He's that guy. He elevated his points per game by 10 in the tournament.
Yeah.
But he's been that guy. We just don't watch him, right? We don't like him, or we say, well, what about this? Or he may have allegedly done that. If you just watch his game.
No, he's incredible.
And it's the same thing that we said about Illinois all year. They're starting 5, 6 is really, really good. Now,
and they'll score on anybody.
I get it. You've got the under. We kind of seen this with them before.
Yeah.
And
I don't trust Brad Underwood as far as I can punt him.
It makes 100%
And they can't stop anybody. I mean, they can't stop anybody.
Well, there's going to be a handful of teams that have that problem.
Yeah, it's like all of the SEC.
Well, I mean, Duke's going to have to figure out how to get some stops in this. There's some tough matchups. If like you're a hoops head, like these I don't know if like, obviously I don't like Clemson, so I could see that being an upset.
Yeah, I think Clemson is not good.
You know, and we'll get into
Clemson
like
should probably be on the other side of that seed line. Like they're like closer to a 10 or 11 than I think they're a 6.
I think, you know, I don't know how far Boise can go, but I think they're better than a 10.
You like BYU as a 6? You've been on BYU for a while.
I like BYU. That is a tough matchup.
Duquesne in the first one?
No,
BYU with anybody
in the like that next round, that second round matchup with BYU, like
BYU Illinois, maybe
that is it's tough. There's
gonna be a lot of points in that one, I think.
Well, see, Danger, like they're gonna they're gonna force Illinois bigs to play differently in that one if both teams win, because I'm already looking at like how the matchup goes. And BYU defensively can give Damas some problems because they have a similar kind of defensively. They'll deal him some fits if that matchup happens.
If they get there.
You know, but I mean, like for the Providences, the Seton Halls, the St. John's, there's one more I'm clearly thinking of, maybe Pitt. Probably ahead of like Oklahoma. I didn't love the Oklahoma case.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with Oklahoma getting left out.
Like the Duquesnes and the North Carolina States of the world, like the Oregons. And how about Nick Bahe 2 weeks ago just calling his shot? Are we gonna act like he didn't just come on here and say
with Dana?
Yeah.
And
I think people listening probably rolled their eyes because that's his guy.
Well, they weren't playing particularly well.
Right. It just on a humbug, on a random. Hey guys, listen. I mean, this is what Dana does, and they're healthy. Keep an eye on Oregon, and I get it. People driving around were like, "Oh."
I kind of thought he was saying it in jest, almost.
I don't.
Like I don't think he was now,
but he wasn't though.
In the moment, I was like, "All right."
He said, "This is what Dana does."
It is. Well, and you, and we're gonna talk to Nick at 9:00 today. So we can follow up with him on the whole Dana Altman situation. We're also going to talk to Sam McKewon at 8. But no, that's a good call out because in the moment, I remember being like, all right.
You know who else is kind of sneaky?
Who?
This is one of the benefits of never going to bed. Washington State is going to be a problem as a 10 for
Drake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping they'd get a little better matchup than that.
Because I want to see how cool. So you got him. So you got TJ, and you got the whole Iowa State, South Dakota State thing, and then you got D-Rock kind of tucked up there. That and they're in Omaha, but Washington State, for the way that Drake defends, it's
gonna cause some problems.
It's gonna. I imagine that game will be fairly high scoring.
Interesting.
Washington State is weird.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I haven't watched.
I just watched them against Washington. Was that last weekend? It's gonna be interesting.
I think
there's some. So I haven't gone in yet.
Yeah,
like just to look at the.
You haven't like made your picks yet or anything.
Or remember the point spreads. I go of the 10 7s and the 8 9s. How many of the lower seeds will be favored?
You mentioned the 6-11s with Clemson. Clemson's a dog as a 6.
Yeah.
I am mad, man. I'm trying to look at some of these.
Clemson's
not very good. Like Clemson is. I don't know what we're doing.
I don't know why I'm hung up on that. I'm gonna stop saying that. That's like the fourth time I've said that in a week, and they've done nothing to me. I'm gonna get off Clemson.
It's probably no, you're not. It's probably because you've just seen them too much. Like that's a super average team.
I'm like, and every time I wonder how.
Yeah, every time.
But I mean, they obviously do a good job.
Of what?
They're always here.
I mean,
it's been a long time since Dale Davis. They're always here.
No, they're fine. They're a fine program. This year, what should they be, like a 9, 10?
Yeah, they're a 10.
Yeah. They should be on the other side. I mean, they're almost on the exact opposite of the seed line they should be on.
Yeah, and let's not act like the chickens could fully be coming home to roost in my backyard, because I was like, I don't know, is Texas A&M or Mississippi State, are they that good? And now here comes A&M with a chance to play Nebraska.
A&M with a chance to play Nebraska.
If Nebraska matches their energy, they'll be fine.
We'll get into that in a second, because believe it or not,
you're walking on air.
One Trev Alberts had some feelings and thoughts that he thought he needed to tweet out about this matchup.
I'm miffed.
At him?
Yeah.
Good. Because I am too. Welcome to the petty train. He needs to stop.
So
he needs to.
I'd rather be right than well liked, right?
Yeah.
So just on a humbug, I decided to kind of go back and scroll through how many unsolicited or non-quote tweets
he has before.
Almost
none.
And it almost never happens.
I've got a theory on what's happening here.
So I'm like, so I'm driving home. I just dropped my mom off last night.
Shout out Mama Betting.
Yeah, she's so funny. In particular, oh my gosh. So, which is fine, because I watched her like pick up the little like wrappers and scraps and stuff on the table just to discard it, so there was like not in the way. And I looked and I'm like, this is exactly where I get it from.
Oh yeah, you come by it honestly, probably.
That is exactly where I get it from. But I was thinking to myself, well, I'll tell you. Let's call it. I'll tell you my theory.
A little tease.
You
here.
can tell me yours, but I want to see if they're similar.
Because
something's wrong in the state of Denmark.
I mean, listen, somebody asked on the other day, you mad yet, DP? I think we're getting him there. More Trev Alberts nonsense coming up next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities.
Hello, friend.
That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. Let's get to our guy Wyatt before we.
I didn't know we had a phone call.
Otherwise, because I'm going to be honest, this next topic's probably going to monopolize a lot of time in the rest of the show, because I feel some kind of way.
I feel some type of way.
Let's get Wyatt on first before I derail the entire program. Wyatt, what's going on, bud?
Hey, I just want to talk about Tomanaga, because, surprise, the Asian white calling him. But I do want to say, I just want to.
Very on brand.
I want to appreciate that, during this whole run, that, there's been talk about him being Japanese Steph Curry. But there really hasn't been talk about him being the novelty of the Asian players, though. I haven't heard any comparisons to Jeremy Lin or the Yao or anything like that. And there has been talk about him looking, like he's not very athletic looking. But I'll say this, because I'm the only one to say this. He does look like he belongs more as a grad assistant in biology class than he does like B1 collegiate basketball athlete.
Can I laugh?
Yeah, because I'll say even in my prime, I look more like an athlete than he did. And I will say, even like right now, I look at him, I'm like, you know what? I could probably take him, but obviously there's no way I would be able to. So I just wanted to appreciate, that, it has been more talk about his game and less about him just being a novelty of this. It probably isn't in the back of a lot of people's mind, but, I do like that we've kind of moved on from that.
All conference tournament team too. So you came up last night when I was dropping my mom off Asian White, because she has she has a neighbor. Well, it's kind of a neighbor. They live by the elementary school. They have chickens. And her neighbor, like right by her in the backyard, has chickens, and they also have ducks. And she said her neighbors just built a new door for the is it a coop? Chicken coop?
Chicken coop, yep.
And she asked me if I read about the arson that was set to the other chicken coop here locally. So that wasn't you, was it, Wyatt?
No, thankfully was not.
Okay. We talked a lot about chickens last night. And I won't tell you what we had, but it did take soy sauce. So there's a joke in there somewhere, but I'm not going to do
it. I still eat chicken. Wife does not, but I still eat chicken.
Appreciate the call, Wyatt. That's why we're doing it on a Monday morning.
See, I think I'm allowed to laugh at that because technically India is in Asia, so I think I can laugh at those jokes.
That's a little bit of a reach.
A little bit of a stretch there. Okay, I won't make any jokes then. I was gonna make a joke about him checking my math homework, but it's fine.
Well, if you do his English, make sure it's spelled correctly.
We're very good at spelling bees. So what's
Shane? You okay? No, I'm not going first.
Okay, I'll go first on Trev. I'll go first.
My buddy thinks he's drunk.
Well, first of all, you said you went back and checked the tweets. And because
a lot.
We both had this perception. I didn't go super far back, but I did scroll for a while, and I was like,
a lot of reposts,
almost exclusively.
Yeah,
his Nebraska AD tenure was almost exclusively reposts of other Nebraska accounts and celebrating the accomplishments of teams, whatever. So this is out of character. What we've seen over the last few days, or it's out of his Twitter character at least. I don't know him as a person, but. So, it's weird, right? He's making this switch. It feels like, to me, he is. I mean, first of all, and I got to give a shout out to Avery from Hurrdat Sports. She brought this up. But hello, friend. It feels like one of those situations where, like, your friend is going through a breakup, and all of a sudden they're very active on social media. And I said, I can literally tell, because I'm getting to about that age where, people from high school are starting to get divorced. I got in on it early, like 6 years ago. But
you beat the rush.
Yeah, I was a trendsetter, I think, in that one. But, you can kind of tell when there is a dramatic increase in social media activity. You're like, oh, they're going through something, right? They're just tweeting their way through it, or they're Instagramming their way through it, right? And my success rate on identifying this when I'm like, oh, this person's posting a lot more than normal, and then I start to dig a little bit, and it's like, oh, they're divorced. It's like 85%. It's an unreal high rate. It feels like Trev is that guy that cheated on his girlfriend that everybody likes, and with this person that no one else really likes, kind of a, I don't know that I want to call Texas A&M white trash, but it's fine. This kind of, nobody really likes Texas A&M. I don't even think the SEC or Texas likes A&M. It feels like he's just trying to show how happy he is. Like, oh, look how great it is with this new person. When in reality, he knows maybe he bleeped up a little bit.
Yeah.
That's kind of my theory.
So that's a lot more plausible than mine.
I love it. Let's go. Let's hear it.
So at no point did I ever think Trev managed his own social media account at Nebraska. But I've never asked him, so I can't confirm or deny.
Okay.
Right. So, but I do know he has some super people. His handler, like Mr. Kelly. Like, he just has some really good guys. That's my travel partner. East Coast guy, super no nonsense. I love him.
He's got some people around him.
That was like Trev's right hand man.
Mm-hmm.
Lindsay is like his admin assistant. She's nails, salt of the earth. So I'm like, maybe somebody that I don't know is like handling his social media account, because it's not his. It's just not him.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he got the College Station, and
somebody took the handcuffs off.
And they're like, no. Maybe he's like, hey, so who does your social media? And they're like, oh, Frank does.
Mm-hmm.
And Trev's like, okay, here, cool. Like, help get me acclimated. I trust you. And this is what's happened.
See,
because we've seen typos, deletes, go back and clean up. Like, it's
messy.
It's very messy.
It's messy. And not just the content.
It's like
it's actually messy.
I'm like,
but the content is also messy. Here's my
like bring the bus down, Will. Like, would Trev say that?
Here's my pushback on it.
So maybe like he's giving it to somebody, and now they're like, in his first, athletic meeting. Hey, Frank.
Maybe chill on
the social media account has to kind of fit my personality, like or the perception anyway. So that's what I'm thinking.
Here's where I would push back on it being someone else or someone from A&M, because first of all, I don't know why anybody that works for A&M would be tweeting about Nebraska as much as that account is. That doesn't make sense to me.
No,
it really doesn't.
It's a good point.
Like, that's where I'm like, because I think like it would make sense because somebody brought this up. I was having this conversation last night.
Who's somebody?
TK. I was DMing with TK last night.
Oh, okay.
And so
we getting some legal.
Okay.
We getting some legal advice.
Yeah.
You want to borrow my shovel? My
Criminal
gloves?
prosecutor. No, it's fine.
I did ask one of my buddies. I said, "Can we have code so I don't have to text that over? Put that in writing."
I'm going to I'm going to hire TK to prosecute Trev for fraud.
Wow.
But
L2 here for hurt feelings.
I do have hurt feelings, and I'll get into it at some point on why my feelings are hurt as bad as they are. Because I spent a lot of time, thinking about that, thinking about why I'm as mad as I am, and I think I was mad as hell. I'm not gonna take it anymore. I think I reached something, and I'll get into it later, but I don't think it's an A&M person because why on earth would anybody that works for A&M be that focused on what's happening at Nebraska? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Because I think what you want
Sure. No, I'm asking the question.
Because I think we're an easy target.
But he's not it's not trolling because he's not.
But I think historically Nebraska on social media is an easy target. We are very quick to clap back.
Very active.
Very active.
Yeah.
We love voting.
Mm-hmm. Very good on Twitter polls.
We will defend.
Mm-hmm.
Like we'll go all in. Like maybe it's that. I don't know, but I'm just that would be like at first blush. That's what I would say.
I could see it if they were,
and maybe they're having fun,
all and out trolling.
I think he's trolling.
It's almost not like if it's trolling, it's not aggressive enough. They're not trolling very well. Like usually trolling is like pretty over the top.
Are you the barometer or are they?
I mean, they can be bad at what they do. That's fine.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's good. That could be a thing.
I mean, a lot of people,
it doesn't have to meet like a prerequisite for
a lot of people are bad at their jobs. That's fine
for great. I am a little. I'm shocked.
So
I just did not like why.
Well, that's a good question. We've only got a few seconds left here, but we'll continue getting into this because I do want to tell you why I'm mad because it's not just, I mean, it is just me being petty, but there's an actual reason I'm mad about it. Like there really is. We'll get to that next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number 1 on a Monday with UAB, apparently. We're live on AM 590 ESPN Omaha.
It's all about Texas, isn't it?
What
Texas A&M. I mean, isn't that what this great state is all about, Texas?
He's mad because I was mad at him about not playing music.
It was UAB. What does UAB have to do with Texas? Okay, good talk.
Cowboy hats and dancing shoes.
Cowboy hats, absolutely. I didn't think of that.
Well, if you were listening.
Not allowed to wear cowboy hats anywhere except for Texas.
Cowboy hats and dancing shoes.
This is Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. I don't even recognize what we're doing this morning.
Go give yourself a timeout.
Yeah, I think you just need to take a lap.
Yes, go take a lap.
We got it for about the next 10 minutes. We'll be okay. I'm Ravi, Lulla. That's DB. No, I was digging in. I was digging into my feels. I was doing a little self-inventory here. So I was like, am I being a little ridiculous?
Yes.
Maybe. I'm not gonna go as definitive as you are.
Yeah, I said that a little too quick.
You were a little quick.
You want me to give it a little thought?
Yeah, like at least pretend.
Okay, ready? Ask me again.
Am I being ridiculous?
Probably.
See, that's better.
Is that better?
That's way better. Way better. But let me tell you why I'm here, right? Because if you think I'm just being mad for the sake of being mad, you're not actually correct. Because I initially I was like, this is BS. F you, Trev. Like that was my initial reaction.
Okay.
Was like kick rocks, like our guy Triple B said, eat bleep. Like,
hey, he's nuts.
He's exactly matching my vibe, and I love it.
Yeah.
So I started digging into it. I was like, why?
You ever spend any time with him?
No. I've met him a couple times.
Oh, man. Okay, keep going.
So I started digging into this because I was like, okay, I like to allow myself to feel what I feel, and then I like to figure out if I need to move on or not, or if I need to.
That's a therapist move.
Yeah, 100%. It's from being in therapy. Like it's, so I started digging into it, and and I'm still mad this morning. So you know where I landed.
That you're validated.
100%. Because here's why I'm mad. It's not that he took another job. necessarily. Like, because I think in Sam's piece, and we'll talk to Sam McKewon at 8 a.m., I think it mentions that he was offered the college football playoff executive chair position or whatever and turned it down. I would have understood that job move. I really would have.
But we went through this last week. I think you knew that, right?
I didn't know it specific. I knew he was interested or there was interest. I didn't know there was an offer and it turned down.
Fair.
It felt more speculative than I realized at that point. So I would have been okay with that job, right? And I would have been okay if there had been a real, I don't know if scandal is the right word, if the lawsuit had been a bigger hurdle than maybe we realized, whatever. But by Trev's own words, and maybe he's not telling the whole truth, and that's fine, but I can only go off of what he says, right? At this point, I can only go off of what I've been told and what he said. And it seems like it got a little more frustrating than he was willing to deal with, and he bailed.
He's clearly mad.
Yes.
Right? Like you can, like if in fact, like Anthony, so a lot of you guys feel like if he's running his own Twitter account, he's clearly mad.
Which is fine, right? But, and listen, he has the right to do whatever he wants to do. I have the right to be mad about it.
Yeah.
Right?
So, and I think that's kind of the, go ahead.
So, and sorry, just a little bit more here. And then you can go and tell me I'm being irrational.
No,
still.
I would never.
Nah, I think you might. That's kind of what we do here. Here's why I'm actually mad about it, though, because he got a little frustrated and just decided to bail. And I said this last week, he gave up on us. That's what makes me mad to my core because, he's talking about, there's some inherent challenges at Nebraska, whatever. Listen, I love being from Omaha and being from Nebraska. I do. Like, I'm genuinely proud to be from here.
Okay.
It means a lot to me, and I like it when we as a collective community succeed. I also understand certain things are harder here. I get that. I get that we don't have the population base to have either the fundraising be as easy as it is in Texas or to have the recruiting be as easy as it is in Texas or whatever. I get there are inherent challenges just because you're here. I understand it's really hard to field a good baseball program year in and year out because we're a cold weather state. I get it. I get it's a little harder here. I also think when you persevere and you win here or you do well here, it makes it more worth it. It was really, really frustrating, and this is where I got mad, was somebody who we thought got us gave up on us. We thought he understood that, yeah, it's a little harder here, but it's worth it. The love you get, the support you get, your wins feel better because of how much the people care about this place. We thought we had a guy in Trev Alberts that got that about this place. Mm-hmm. All of his quotes before Wednesday indicated he understood that about this place. So when that guy gives up on you, that hurts more.
Yeah, so I'm with you for about 96% of that.
Okay, where are you? Where do I lose you?
The breaking point. Like,
that's fair.
Right? So on the surface, I love, like, because I'm the same way, right? But at some, and that, like, there's some real life tangible examples about dealing with some of these people out here. Like, I enjoy exhausting all options, trying to figure it out, because I think coming out of the back end, you're going to be better for it.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder what the breaking point is.
Yeah.
Like what happened?
Well, that's part of what's frustrating.
What happened between 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like those are the things that kind of gnaw at me a little bit. Like,
because it sounds like somebody say something were willing to be made.
Somebody's like, was a mom joke the breaking point? Was it like
something stupid? Was it something real?
What personally snapped, like,
in Trev's brain?
Yep.
Where he's like, I'm out.
Yeah. I mean, because you have to understand all that comes with it. Mm-hmm. How about?
And I don't think he does.
So I had somebody real close to me Friday. Is it Friday? Was talking to me about collateral damage.
Mm-hmm.
He's like,
there's a lot on this one.
It's like, DB, do you think we understand the collateral damage going forward? And I think he was talking about folks in the office.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, how bad could it have been? ? The response back to me, cold-blooded.
Well,
Like
Trev's
that's
part,
where
it was
he
cold-blooded.
that's where he landed on it.
Yeah.
And he's pretty close to it.
So
I'm thinking, man.
And I said this last week, either Trev didn't understand the consequences, which what we know about Trev, that seems unlikely, or he didn't care.
He had a breaking point.
Like he just stopped caring.
Yeah.
That's the point. That's what pisses me off. That's why I'm mad, because listen, he has the right to do whatever he wants. He has the right to have a breaking point. I have the right to be mad about it.
So the social media thing is driving you up the wall?
Yes.
Okay.
If you're going to go take a new job, just go do your new job.
I thought Rank Mast and Josiah Alec, those guys were fantastic at the podium.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we're not playing the AD. We're playing A&M. Now, is it pretty spicy? My buddy John, he's like, wow, now the women's team too. I mean, I get it. Like, but I'm gonna ride on the fact that no one person is bigger than the institution. And I went back and I was reading some of the stuff that Sipple said, because he talked to a couple of athletic directors, and one of them being Bill Moose, which is a great example. Me taking some tidbits from Bill Moose is a great example of what I was telling you last week. Sometimes people that you typically don't have an affinity for, or you don't think were good at something, or maybe wronged you or whatever, will say some things, and you're like,
oh, I could vibe with that.
I can entertain that.
Yeah, 100%.
There was and so I don't want people to be dismissive of the fact that we didn't think Bill Moose was very good at his job, to detract from some of the points that he made talking to Sipple, because I thought there were some legit points, that he made, and it just wasn't a Board of Regents bash, because I'm not for that either. Like, a couple of things can be true at once. People can have to get better, but I also believe there can be some culpability on a lot of other people's parts too, to keep it from getting the way that it is, right? So I said, how'd we get here? Right? Like, we got to own some of that. And so, he talked about like some of the intricacies and the dynamics, and when people get mad and they'll pick up the phone and they'll call other people, and then at that point it becomes a political position, and it could be anything from need more free parking to, not enough this, not enough that. He says it can be overwhelming. But the academia portion of it and the balance from an athletic director, I think, is interesting, because you have, I'm gonna go back to what I said last week. You better redefine the roles and what you want it to be if you're ever going to get better going forward, if you want to keep this from happening again, because you're trending in the wrong direction.
We'll get into that more coming up next. We've got Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. We will, I'm sure, talk about Trev.
You will.
We'll talk about the men's and women's basketball teams as well here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're making it, Sam. Ravi's trying to drive me crazy, but outside of that, man, I'm happy about North Carolina. I'm scratching my head over why people would make light of what the Steelers are doing, because it hasn't cost them very much. I'm happy about Nebraska men and women's being in the dance. I'm happy about Creighton. I'm happy about D-Rock coming to Omaha. And it's Monday. How about you?
Same here. It's going to be a really fun and busy week for the World-Herald. We'll have writers scattered all over the country, and looking forward to it. Yep, and lots of teams coming here.
It's like, oh, by the way.
Yeah, fun stuff this week at CHI, and fun stuff obviously in Pittsburgh, and Memphis, and out in Corvallis. So, and then you got an AD search. Well, maybe, sort of. We'll see.
Well,
but it's gonna. Well, I mean, can you have an AD search?
Hey, just drive 45 minutes down the road. You don't have to search too far. Isn't Pollard going to be in Omaha? I'm
Can
just,
you have
I'm just
that?
kidding.
Can you
Sorry,
conduct-
Sam.
That's possible. Yeah. Can you conduct that surge
Without a
with,
president?
Yeah. Like,
Well, they'll hire.
if
They'll definitely hire the AD before the president.
Oh.
You watch.
well, I'm not saying that won't happen, but
I know, it
we'll
seems
get an
weird, doesn't
understanding
it?
as to who it's going to be.
All right.
Aren't you
it's
asking for
just,
trouble
you know,
though if you do that? Aren't you asking for trouble if you hire the AD before
listen,
president?
man. Since we haven't done things in correct order
Ever.
in a long time, so that's what I'm saying. It's part of the recalibration. Sam, I got one Trev question, and I'm gonna move on because we got bigger fish to fry. But you're very good at kind of these black couch things, and you don't charge me by the hour, so I kind of like this. Why does it seem, in your opinion, when he's had it or he gets to his breaking point, he's willing to burn the whole thing down?
Well, I think that's it's part of his. I think it's probably part of his philosophical and ideological makeup. And I kind of laid it a little bit of it out, I thought, in my column that just ran today. So a couple things. One, he's been in the NU system 15 years. He's been the Nebraska athletic director 2.5, but he's been in the system for 15 years. Two, his kids are out of high school now. If you're going to make a move, if you're going to do something really different, this is the window. This window between now and I don't know when you stop doing things like these. And let me give you an example. I'll give you an example. Bill Moose walked away from Oregon when in his mid-50s. He just walked away, and then he took a couple of years off, and then he went to Washington State. And I think everybody would say that his time at Washington State was pretty successful. And then he left there, kind of walking away from some money stuff and whatever. And his time here was not successful. And by that I mean not that he hired. I mean, Fred Hoiberg, I think, is going to end up being a successful coach, but there wasn't a lot done. There was a lot of money spent, and not a lot got done. And he didn't. I don't think he did a ton while he was here. And so, there's the time to make that move, and for it to be super productive. And I think that Alberts is in that window. One, two. I think he's a person who can see when you're able to see around the corner. Sometimes what you see is problems.
Yeah. And
so I think there are things that he looks around the corner. He sees some things around the corner, not just the presidential thing, but other things that to be honest with you, I don't want to report because I'm not sure they're going to come to fruition. I feel like I've heard from him in the last however many months a little bit of a foreboding vision.
Yeah.
Like, not sure Nebraska's going to stay in the Big Ten.
I know.
It's been a little dark, and so it's like I don't really know that I agree with you. I understand that your ability to plot out the steps and potentially, see some bad things happening and not wanting to be around for that, but I don't know that those things will happen. So that kind of quality, his personality, he's a little bit of a fundamentalist.
Yeah. So that's the part. That's the part that's bugging me, which is why anger wasn't my initial response. It was, what is this? What he's been hinting around maybe I read it wrong, right? I thought it was about, and maybe wrong isn't the right word. All the foreboding stuff about positioning and the academics and the strengthening of the budget and where they wanted to be to position themselves in college football's landscape going forward and to remain in the Big Ten Conference. And you and I even talked about it, right? You were like, well, I don't think Nebraska would ever get kicked out of the Big Ten. And I've said, no, I agree with you. It's just weird that maybe that was the message that he was. That's why I can't land on the fact I am uneasy about he just took his ball and went home. Like, it just doesn't seem like he would have this magical breaking point and he's like, yep, I'm out. Like, maybe he was forecasting the negativity all along when he was talking to us through these interviews.
That's possible. Yeah.
I don't know. You know what I mean?
No. That's, yes. I mean, I do know what you mean. And I think also, that sentiment that he sort of expressed toward the end of our conversation, like, well, maybe things will be better if I'm not there. And I'm like, I don't know about that. But I understand what he means in the sense that, like, this is, and I'm not quoting him here. This is my own analysis of it. Nebraska's fired a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
And
they
didn't fire Trev.
No.
He left. And sometimes leaving is a wake-up call of, like, you guys wanted me to stay. And I turned down, and he did. He turned down jobs that were going to pay more money. I don't know what he's going to pay, but he turned some stuff down that people would have been mad about, but they would have been like, well, okay. That makes this look like, well, this guy just left. This is kind of like your wife leaving. And just like that, you come home and the suitcase is gone, and this is what that is a little bit. And it's, it's a shock. I mean, Kabort knew that he was talking to A&M, but
yeah,
this is one of those moments where you're kind of like, okay, this is the person we wanted to stay. We have other people over here who are whatever. I think he felt like he was in the middle a little bit. The other thing I wrote today is, like, the irony is he took himself out of the hierarchy of the chancellor's office, and he was answering straight to the president, which they don't have. And the other thing that's true is that Nebraska athletics is now like its own campus. And so its fortunes are matched against the fortunes of the other campuses.
See,
and so part of what happened is, all the criticism that would have been directed at the UNL chancellor of, like, hey, how can you go out and ask for a $450 million Memorial Stadium upgrade, was then directed directly at Trev, because the UNL chancellor could say, well, it's not me doing this.
So preach, because this is what I was trying to connect last week when I said, hey, the good thing that can come. This is why I'm not pro just hammering regents. Right? Do they need to clean up some things? Sure. Do we need to tweak the process? Maybe. But see, they made some concessions for what they thought was the greater good. They just kind of like acquiesced to the individual, not like the idea of what they were really subscribing. It was unprecedented. So they tried to do us a solid, and it blew up in our face. And without a president, Trev was always the one getting the heat. It broke, but it came out of good intentions. Like, does that make sense to you?
Right. It does. It's ironic. The very thing we wanted was the very thing that.
That's why the end of last week bugged me so much. I'm like, all right, but I'm not just gonna bash away, because what happens is we made some concessions to help out, and it came back to bite us in the rear end. Let's go back to the old way, reset what it is that we're here to do as the BOR elected officials, educate folks, make the mission statement on athletics being the front door to the university, or it isn't. I like your separate campus thing, because that's the elephant in the room, right? It's like too many academia come here and they get mad that this is some standalone independent money-making operation, and I know it drives some people crazy, right? Like they have. I'm not telling you anything I don't think you don't know, but to figure out how to play nice together, you better start to say some things out loud.
Right. I mean, one of the challenges is now, I mean, the president, whoever that person is going to be, has to be prepared to oversee athletics, Nebraska athletics, and kind of like it.
Yeah, and be okay with what it is, even as an academics person.
Sure. And so the regents had begun to assert more control over athletics in 2015, when Hank Bounds, was given the power to approve or not approve changes to contracts over $500,000. That was in reaction to Sean Eichhorst not asking the elected board of regents whether he could fire Bo Pelini in 2014, because in a lot of ways he did ask in 2013, and it was kind of like, you're not doing it. And that was pretty simple. But in 2014 he wasn't asking, and on top of that, he wasn't asking anybody who he should hire in Pelini's wake. And then they went out and hired, and and you know Mike Riley well too.
Mhm.
I don't think Mike Riley was the right fit for this place, but the level of disparagement that was put toward Mike Riley
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
unrelaxed.
You talk about a guy that could have walked because he couldn't do his job right.
Oh yeah, I mean it was unbelievable how easily and quickly he was disparaged, and how easily and quickly some people in the media were willing to do that on behalf of others.
He got bullied.
So,
he literally got bullied.
Part of everything that was going on in that time was like, we like Bo, we're mad that he's gone, we don't like this person, we're going to change all of our processes, and then in 2017, we're going to go get our guy, and he's going to come back, and he's going to win all these games, and we will be proven right.
Yep.
And then for various reasons, he didn't win those games. And I probably have more sympathy and empathy for his situation than many people do. I think it was a hard situation, and I feel for him.
Wait,
But
are you talking about Frost?
Yes, absolutely. He did well. I know, and you obviously understand way more dynamics there than I do. But my point is that the whole thought process was, we're going to level everything that had happened when Eichhorst was here. We'll get rid of all those folks. We will have changed the nature of the relationship between the board and athletics.
You're talking about you're talking about the uncertainty that he walked into. We didn't do him any favors.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure we did him any favors with the AD he was paired with, and that's not the.
Yeah. Well,
we
figured out in a hurry. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, right?
Right. So the shift that Frost had to deal with from Moose to Trev was just. I mean, it was like 180 degree shift.
Yeah.
And so, the challenge is, so all of these things were sort of happening behind the background. The whole thought process is, well, Scott's going to come back and win all the games, and he'll effectively be the AD and also the football coach and all these other things. And then that doesn't go well. And then it becomes abundantly clear that there needs to be someone actually running the department, that's like, full goal and ready to do it for 5 or 10 years. And so Moose is paid to leave. Trev is brought in. And in the 2.5 years that Trev was there, I think he really did run the department. Like it was firmly done.
Yeah.
But now that leads us where we are now, of that, like, hey, everybody's, he became a guy that was in the middle. There's stories out there about, whatever he did at UNO. There's this, there's that. And I think it just becomes, now they need to get a structure where the AD is just the AD and not the person that's, having to try to figure out issues that are honestly beyond the role that they're given.
We're talking with Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. You kind of mentioned this role that we kind of thrust upon Scott Frost, that he wasn't necessarily capable or ready to take on. Are we kind of asking Matt Rule to do the same thing right now in the interim with no AD, no president?
Way more experience, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's more qualified for it.
But
that's what we're asking him to do, right?
I wrote last week, he's the face of the athletic department.
Yep.
And I suppose there's somebody they could hire that would supersede that. And I'm thinking somebody who would be willing to make as shocking a move as Trev Alberts just made. And
you're talking like Greg Byrne.
That is.
So
it'd be like a Greg Byrne.
If you don't want,
it'd have to be that type of hire.
It has to be a sitting, well-respected athletic director. And handle is a bad word, Sam. It's not like you have to handle Coach Rule, but when you have really bright, higher level thinkers, they need to be challenged in a healthy manner to keep them sharp, right?
Yeah, right, for sure. And so I think he becomes in many ways the leader. Now he has to do. He needs
emotional and psychological peers, though, because if he gets those, he could really be brilliant. I mean, he's already extremely smart, but give him a peer that he can bounce ideas off to cast visions, then go make it happen. Like, you're in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, I think that would be great if they're able to find that person. What he doesn't have to do is try to have answers for things that are outside of what he needs to figure out. So he'll have to. I think when he was at Baylor, he did have to sort of be a moral leader there based on what had happened before he got there. And then I think he gets to Carolina, and that was a whole mess. And, I think he probably worked for somebody there that wasn't very helpful in some circumstances. And so now, he's probably going to be sort of a vocal leader. Simultaneously, he has to, do his job, and they have to hire somebody to support him. And it's possible that success will help Fred Weber. To be more of that, I think he is pretty reserved in some ways, like publicly. And so I don't know if getting the NCAA tournament and winning a game or two in Memphis changes what Weber thinks he can step into as a leader in that department.
Listening to his real personality come out the last couple of months, Sam, is beautiful. Like, he's a pretty cool coach, and I think he's like, we're seeing the full Coach Hoiberg experience.
Right.
I
think so.
There's a lot in there.
There is. I think there is a lot in there. He's a great guy. Seriously, like in terms of a person and all that, and the humor that he has and all those things. I found it striking. He said last night, when the reveal is done, that he had to kind of go to a different place in his house and just reflect on that.
That's cool.
So, like,
man.
they watched it at his house, and I think one of the reasons they probably did that is so that, like, when that happened, there was a moment he had to himself, and you can't have that when you're doing a watch party, at the arena. And so I think that was notable, that, like, this is a person I think who feels very deeply about making this place better, and it's probably starting to come into that, and is finally seeing some of the success come to fruition. And I'm sure he feels great about that. But yeah, I mean, Matt Rhule is going to be, he'll speak today. Everybody's going to want to know what he thinks about Trev. I'm sure he'll have something thoughtful to say, and then it becomes about basketball for the rest of the week, and the football team can have their spring camp, and I'm sure it'll be fine. And the one thing about football that's interesting, and I'm sure we'll talk about this next week, you don't have to ask a lot of, like, get to know you questions. People kind of know who this team's going to be from a culture standpoint. The question is going to be one specific position, and he will not have answers to that question today, because he doesn't know. Nobody really knows until they play a football game against another team. You might learn a little in the spring game, but nobody really knows until they play UTEP exactly what they have at that position, because they may not have all their guys yet. They may go through spring and say, okay, yeah, we need to go out and get a guy. We just don't know yet, and that's the key to this team, because this team has so many other components in place. They got to get better at that position, and you just don't know how good you're going to be quite yet before camp starts.
Sam, want to get to some basketball here at the end of this interview. I know we spent a lot of time talking about a guy that doesn't work here anymore, but
Ravi's not, but he's not mad. He's not mad, Sam.
Oh no, I'm super mad, and I'm super petty, and
You're mad.
he's persona non grata to me here in the state of Nebraska. Sam, how did you like the 8-9 draw for? Obviously, you got Texas A&M, so we'll leave the Trev part out of this. But in terms of the actual basketball teams, how do you like that 8-9 draw for Nebraska? I know I thought they could maybe creep up to a 7. Looks like they were closer to that than the 10 that a lot of people had them before the Big Ten tournament. How do you like that matchup for the Huskers?
Oh, it's fine. I think they could have been a 7, but then you're leaning into where you put them as a 7. Are you going to put them in Omaha? Are you really going to do that to an Iowa State team that could have been a 1?
They were further from a 1 than I thought, though. They weren't that close.
They were not. So I think you're starting to get into weird conversations where I think it would have been, truly manifestly unfair to Iowa State to force them to play in a road environment. That just wouldn't have been fair at all. And so, they go as an 8. They're playing a team that is an outlier in college basketball. They don't shoot the 3 at all. They're terrible shooting the 3. They're like 28%. And they just rebound the hell out of it. So they rebound and they get second chance points and muscle you inside. They're the kind of team that Nebraska has struggled with this year. Doesn't mean Nebraska can't win. So much of the NCAA tournament comes down to, going and making some shots in the first 15 minutes of the game. and then defense. And if Nebraska defends and they make some shots early, that Texas A&M is not going to overcome a 17-point deficit. You got to try to put this team in a hole early, and if you do that, then they're going to have a hard time getting out of it. So Nebraska has to start fast, and we'll see what happens. And then in the second round, you play a team that has been very good all season long, but just had a horrible game against Iowa State and does struggle to score. Houston a couple of years ago, they almost lost to Rutgers in the second round. That Rutgers team that was very slow possession-wise. If Nebraska can slow a game down against Houston and kind of play possession to possession, you never know. Houston will not have a bunch of fans in Memphis. They don't travel. They're not that strong of a fan base. Nebraska will have more fans in the arena if they beat Texas A&M to play Houston. So it's not the worst draw of all time. We'll see what happens, and they got a chance to win. That's all you can ask for.
Sam, if you'll do the editing for me, because I can't write, you can send me to Corvallis on like a independent contractor deal. I'll go watch women and UNLV. Is that in the budget?
They're playing Texas A&M.
Well, I meant up to Corvallis, not UNLV, but up to Corvallis to watch that one. I might get my local teams
we got
mixed
Brent
up.
Wagner going out there. Brent will do a great job.
Oh, tell him it's not personal. I'm not trying to muscle in on his job. I just know Corvallis isn't a fun place to try to get to.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Not quite Penn State, but it's not easy.
Not quite. Honestly, not quite Eugene. Eugene's further away than Corvallis.
That place sucks.
You got to fly to Portland and then go down to Eugene. Yeah. So we'll see what happens with them. I think they've got a chance to win their first game, and do not be stunned if the team that's also in that region, Oregon State, struggles to beat the 14th seed. 14th seed is really good, better than most 14 seeds,
and can score. Yep.
That's Sam McKewon, Omaha World-Herald. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. And we are brought to you by our friends at the Omaha Storm Chasers. They got a great win on Saturday against the Orlando Valkyries here at the CHI Health Center, and they will be back in action a week from Thursday. There's another thing going on this weekend at the CHI Health Center. There's NCAA basketball
tournament. I saw BMAC on TV this morning. McCarville. Yeah.
We so you can get tickets. You've got about a week and a half before the next home match for the Supernovas. Go to supernovas.com for schedule, tickets, merch, anything you can think of at supernovas.com.
I think he said Storm Chasers there, Shane. We can just get that edited.
Did I say Storm Chasers?
Probably.
Supernova. I think that said Supernovas.
I don't know. Let's go take it to
We like all of our local professional teams. We're a big fan.
So everybody's just a little bit off today. I mean, I wasn't.
No, just you. And I don't know if he was really off. I could have not heard that correctly.
But we know for sure Shane is.
Yeah. But now he says he can't see. What that had to do with playing bed music, I have no idea.
I mean, it sounds like he's making excuses like Trev is. That's fine.
That was so.
I'm not on Twitter doing it.
I'm not on Twitter. That was a fantastic.
No, really good stuff from Sam.
And I would go because there's a lot in there. I'm
going to have to go back and listen because there's stuff I'm sure I didn't catch.
Yeah, it's deep.
Yeah,
and I do wonder one thing though. I shouldn't allow myself to go back and reminisce.
No, let's do it.
But I wonder what would have happened if Coach Frost would have gotten the job with really strong
leadership
in place, not just from the athletic director, but
top down.
Because as I've tried to hint to, getting in the weeds here, remember my big solution, say it out loud, redefine, front door.
Put your mission statement out there.
Because I'm telling you.
You want everybody on the same page.
I'm telling you. Robbie,
and the only way to do that is do it publicly.
Nebraska is in a unique situation. And I don't even know if it's always unique good. It's unique good because of the way that the athletic department can operate free of any other purse strings.
Mm-hmm.
But when your enrollment is down and you're facing fiscal budget crunches, it's hard for your president and your athletic director to be answering questions about the academics world when all this other money is going to these other funds. Don't undersell that. Go back to the other process. Let the chancellor and AD do their thing. Let the president prez.
Yes, let them be the president of the university system.
If he or she wants to be involved in athletics in some way, shape, or form, it's secondary, not necessary. Then you don't have to worry about going to your constituents and saying, "Well, how do you have the?" Because
how do you have the money for this, but not for this?
Right.
Yeah. Let me tell you why. Can I tell you why?
Sure.
Because I did a little research on this.
Okay.
Because I made the statement last week. And again, I wanted to get it right. And I was hoping that I was also right. But so I did some research. I made the statement last week that athletics almost across the board, if you're successful, raises your enrollment and things like that. They help the academic side.
I was in complete agreement.
And I've got numbers for you. Okay. Because it is true. To the tune of almost 20% across the board. We're not just talking about these national sensations like an FGCU, which grabbed the country by storm. We're not just talking about the Alabamas of the world that are dominant and winning national championships. This is across the board, going from a mediocre to good. And I'm not going to, they lay that out in the study, but going from a mediocre to good football program.
I like where you're going.
Or athletics program.
Talk to me.
Leads to application increases of almost 20%. To attain the same level of gain, you would have to lower tuition by 4%, which nobody's doing, or you would have to dramatically invest in higher quality faculty. That's what I'm talking about. And it even has a name. It's called the Flutie effect, back from Boston College.
Yeah.
This is a real thing. This is not just a Ravi made-up anecdotal thing. This is a real thing. That's a study that was published by a Texas professor in the Harvard Business Review. That is a real thing. So I get the academia types kind of wringing their hands and being like, but it's an institution of higher learning. Yes. And you have the best recruiting tool on the planet next door. It's called Nebraska football. You get that recruiting tool hitting on all cylinders, I guarantee you a lot of that other stuff will take care of itself.
Did you heard Trev, you heard Sam reference Hank Bounds being at football practices and stuff. I remember we had a spring practice, and I think he and I took a picture. I may have put it on then the artist formerly known as Twitter then, just because I had a lot of respect for him. And I'd seen him like a couple practices in a row in the spring. And I asked him, like, what's his affinity? Because he was always going around watching, he'd go to volleyball and he'd watch these practices. And he said, I think it would be in our best interest if we figure out what happens out here on the competitive playing field in athletics, where you're around competitive high-end people and not somehow want to make that representative of what we're doing on campus to attract our students. We need to be in the business of competing. And I sat back for a second. I'm like, and I said real time. I don't know why that sounded so novel, because it isn't.
Not very many people say it out loud.
But he said it out loud. And I was like, huh.
Not
but
very many people
then a
say it
couple
out
years
loud.
removed, right, I get these other statements that I like. DJ would always we always talk about simple versus easy, right? It's easy to understand. It's not always that simple to execute.
Yep.
Right. And I watch what happens at the high school level. Right. Booming enrollment often comes with what's going on with athletics. Right.
That's how it works.
It just does. And
athletics draws people in.
So, but the thing about Nebraska, and I said this kind of in passing last week, and you called it a rant. It wasn't really a rant. But there has to be some hard conversation sitting at the table where you're like, okay, listen, Prez, I know you want this job. We want you to have this job. This is where, because we keep making cuts, right? Because one of the good things about, and people rolled their eyes, but I'm not as down on on the governor in some areas as some other people are, right? I'm willing to give anything a chance. And I think he wants success for the university, right? And I'm not getting into what's happening in the rest of the state because I'm only talking about the university.
Sure.
So don't hear me saying, well, what about the rest of the state? It's not just about athletics, because I keep hearing that, right? But when the governor is involved, see, when you have state budgets, fiscal budgets. I worked in the Title I department in public school sector. And when the state gets cuts, do you know one of the first line items that gets hammered when you can't meet budget is education? Always. Governor Heineman was notorious for this, former Governor Heineman. And we would see the funds decrease, right? Year after year after year. And it's like, well, we want people to be smart. We just don't really
We don't want to
we don't really want to pay for it, right? So we're gonna have all these workarounds. So when the governor brings this like call to action, and it's not just, I know some of the verbiage people gravitated towards Board of Regents, but what happens is with the presidential search, you have to have these conversations about what the expectation level is in the academics world with a severe budget and student shortfall versus are we going to be okay with allowing the athletics department to kind of operate independently? It doesn't have to be rogue, right? But what is one of the reasons that Trev wanted to work directly with Ted Carter? Well, you don't have to go through as much red tape.
Limits the bureaucracy, right?
You can just get things done quicker. Now, the downside of that is, hey, Prez, what's going on with the rest of the stuff that you're supposed to be doing? Pretty heavy-handed over here. Like, are we good with the optics? And I always laugh at the word optics because optics is a word that people use when they don't have enough information. Oh man, the optics are bad. Well, you maybe not know enough. You don't know enough. Sure. I know how it looks on the outside. So if you're at the table and you're talking with one another about the vision, the mission statement, and the well-defined roles, it holds everybody accountable, right? And you're operating in the know, which most of the time I think that's how high-functioning adults want to know. They don't want to guess.
No.
But you do have to reconcile some things in your head when you step on this campus because it is uniquely different.
Yeah, I think you're right. People don't want to guess, but a lot of times, if you don't have kind of the emotional maturity to deal with it, you don't like what you hear either when people give you the information. So
even at that level? I guess people are people. You're right.
People are people. Coming up next, we'll wrap up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Getting into a lot of stuff here, mostly Trev, surprise, surprise. Some basketball as well, though. But before the whole show gets away from us,
you gonna take some of that Mattress Mac money and go to Memphis?
No.
He's offering package deals for Houston.
No, I'm not going to.
That's one thing I did kind of disagree with Sam about. That thing will be well attended by this. There's a lot of teams
I saw you
from
make
Texas.
a face. I thought you.
Yeah, because
Are you guys going?
They'll go.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now,
how
they may fight over competing barbecue, Texas style versus Memphis, but
do you know all the differences between barbecue? Like which regions do what?
For the most part.
So what's Texas known for?
So that's like mesquite,
like smoked.
Yeah, like not
the
so much
flavor?
saucy, but yeah, the mesquite.
Like how they actually cook it, not the sauce.
And then Memphis is a little sweeter.
Okay, that's like your traditional sweet barbecue.
Yeah, and you see it on the labels, right? Like different types of barbecue.
And then Carolina has like the mustard.
Yeah, the vinegary, the lighter.
Okay,
and if I was gonna do any sauce, I'd be weird because Charlotte is a beautiful city, but I'd be way over in the Carolinas.
I like the Carolina Gold. I like that type of sauce, even though I don't like vinegar. If you get a good one that you can't really taste the vinegar in it.
So I found myself using vinegar a lot more now.
Oof, I hate vinegar.
I clean my chicken with it. I drink it. And it reeks.
Yeah.
I made the boys a concoction yesterday morning, and it's like Micah plugged his nose. I was like, grow up, buddy. It's good for you. But anyway, vinegar is one of the pretty.
It's a versatile substance.
Pungent. I don't like it.
No, I hate the smell.
But in those mustard-based sauces, like my buddy Corey, that has the unbelievable catering cooking business, does a vinegar sauce.
So what's KC barbecue then?
I don't know. I'm not
Because
that.
I always
Because
thought
remember, I don't like sauce.
I always thought KC was maybe
I
like the
think
sweeter
I think
barbecue.
sauce is pretty overrated.
Yeah, I like a good barbecue sauce.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, it's got its place.
I don't like my food wet.
That thing wet.
Yeah. Shannon Sharp, which by the way, I wish I could have made some money
That thing wet.
predicting that decline.
Well, yeah, it's a hard.
I was about a week ahead.
That's a hard market to short right there. You know, I don't know if you've seen The Big Short. You got to kind of create your own markets, maybe do some swaps here. It's a whole thing. I don't know who's taking that action on Shannon Sharp, kind of having his having a little moment.
Club Shay Shay.
I'll take it.
No, I wanted to get to your Pittsburgh Steelers making a little quarterback room.
People making me mad.
Why are people making you mad about the Steelers?
It's just dumb low ball takes.
Like what?
Like, what are you guys doing?
I thought it was a good move.
Making moves
Well,
out here.
not spending very much money to better the quarterback room.
Well, and giving yourself a couple of bites at the apple, right?
Yeah.
Like you're paying Russ 1.2, something like that.
Like I said, in any other real world, it would be great business.
100%.
Fairly good return on a very low investment. That's the American dream.
Fairly good opportunity for return.
Yeah.
We don't know what we'll get, right? But you're giving yourself
Did I
a chance.
say chance?
I didn't think so, but I might have missed it.
Okay, well, it's implied.
Okay.
But I do like you making me make sure, because you'll be the type of dude that in 8 months, when they'll be 6 and 8 and with 3 weeks to go, and you're like, yeah, you said this is going to create a great opportunity.
Oh, I see.
And I'll have to go back and say, no, I said the chance.
It creates a great opportunity. It doesn't guarantee return on investment.
No,
as almost nothing does.
But very low risk.
Yes.
And
it's a low risk, high reward proposition.
At the end of the day, you can send me your sack stats, your interception stats.
I like Justin Fields.
Pittsburgh's quarterback room is better
than it was last year.
Yeah. And if you give me if you give me a Tyler Boyd and or a Mike Williams, who by the way is in Pittsburgh this week.
Oh, who knows?
I feel pretty good about that.
It's literally costing Pittsburgh like $1 million.
Pennies on the dollar.
And a sixth, worst case scenario, 4th round draft pick, because it's conditional for Justin Fields. I couldn't believe they got him for that. I couldn't believe it.
Just wait, right? And they're patient. They're not even a splashy free agency team. And they've had a heck of a free agency run here.
I wanted the 49ers to spend a third on him just to have him in the room.
Yeah.
Like, I would have taken that 100% in a place where I wanted him in the first place over Trey Lance. You don't have to be the starter right away.
How about how they did Kenny Pickett, though?
Yeah, that was cold-blooded.
Yeah, don't be a grumble bug.
That was cold-blooded.
Don't be a grumble bug, because not only did you get shipped, at least they kept you in the state, but you're playing behind a guy that they're paying a ton of money to.
Yeah, you're not playing. You're just not playing.
So it's like, ooh, careful.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. I thought the Steelers did well. I thought it was a good move for them. I've always had a soft spot for Justin Fields. I think he's been in a terrible situation, but now the Bears have cleared the way to go after, I guess, Caleb Williams.
Yeah, it's getting a lot of pushback.
Or trade out of that spot and go get somebody else.
The closer this thing gets to the draft, the more smoke
about Caleb Williams.
Just the quarterbacks in general.
Yeah.
I just saw 2 more mock drafts the other day that now had May backslotted at second, but people do love Daniels.
Yeah, they do.
And his pro day, and he's before May. So Daniels is the 27th, May is the 28th.
Yeah.
And Caleb is the 20th.
It's going to be interesting because the mocks we saw last week of Drake May at like post 10 didn't make any sense to me.
Depends on what you do with McCarthy, right?
Even you can move McCarthy to 6 still and leave May
there's
at
only
2 or
so
3.
many teams, so you're thinking 4, right? Who's going to be the 4th if you're going to slide early and make a move, right? Because then there's Bo Nix coming. Penix is either back half of the first round or second round.
I don't know what people are doing with Bo Nix. I don't.
He's making a move.
That's fine. I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm at a loss for words with the Bo Nix stuff.
Do you know the one place on the before this weekend where Fields landed? Do you know where I felt like they were going to make a little low key move?
Who? Where?
I thought maybe the Giants.
Yeah, so that's a team
with Locke, Fields, and whatever you're going to do with.
That's a team that people are looking at
Daniel
6
Jones making a move
as the fourth. Either they take a quarterback at 6.
I can't see McCarthy going at 6. But
Too high
he
or
would, but
wrong
he would
spot?
be the. I think it's the wrong spot
For the Giants.
Yeah.
So I think there's most of the mocks either have the Giants taking a quarterback there, depending on who's available, or having somebody trade into that 6 spot. That 6 spot seems to be the place that people are looking at.
Maybe the Raiders
to trade into. The Vikings I've seen get traded up to 6 a lot.
Vikings have their own issues though, because even though you're having a good free agency deal, like what are you going to pay Justin Jefferson if you can't really get him the ball the way that you need to for 2 years maybe?
Yeah, at least one, right? Because I think Sam Darnold's the perceived starter there for now.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe he's okay. I don't know, but we've seen a decent amount of evidence to say that he's probably not that guy. Maybe he has a late career renaissance. The other team, Denver. People have looked at Denver trading up to 6.
Yeah. Sean Payton, the quarterback whisperer.
Allegedly.
Except it was sweet nothings that he was whispering
he was
to Russell the love muscle.
He was what was he whispering to Drew Brees all those years?
Do good things, Drew.
Throw for 5,000 yards and don't do anything in the playoffs.
Drew, do good things.
I'm
glad the Dolphins didn't take you because of your shoulder.
I'm basically McCarthy with better PR.
Yeah, Drew, do good things. Love that the Chargers let you go. I know you were rumored to go to Miami.
He's doing some good things.
Thank you for coming to New Orleans.
Don't worry. Nick Saban got Dante Culpepper instead. It's fine. That's how that played out.
How fast did he disappear?
Saban?
DC.
Oh, really fast.
Isn't that something?
He is one of the, man, go back and look at his. Because he was like the best quarterback in the league one year.
Yeah.
Almost. Pretty close to it.
Well, he had a 2-year run where it was just like they're scoring at will.
It was bonkers.
With Moss and Carter. The quarterback is such a crapshoot.
It really kind of is. Like that's, we have all these, and I have strong opinions about it too, but we have all these strong takes at the draft. And I mean, nobody really knows. I mean, Caleb Williams, for all the, like, oh, what's his personality like? Is he a little too enigmatic? Whatever. Maybe he's awesome. I have no idea.
Yeah. Who did I listen to on Sirius? Was it Joe Klatt? Klatt loves Caleb Williams.
Really?
Yeah. Klatt's kind of hard on quarterbacks. It's kind of hard on quarterbacks. Yeah. But I just want get the draft over because I'm gonna check out from the NFL here starting on Thursday, unless Boyd makes it official and Mike Williams.
You mean during the NCAA tournament?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Either let's make some moves before Thursday.
Yeah.
Let's have we need to have nice little moratorium. You know how we have dead periods in college football recruiting. We need an NFL moratorium during the NCAA tournament, which they're not going to do that because the NFL wants to rule the world. But just saying, give me a little break here.
What did you think the toughest region was for you?
Ooh, that's a good question. A lot of people were talking about how much they like Creighton's draw, and we can get to that here in a minute because we're going to talk to Nick Bahe. And I don't think they have a terrible draw. Toughest region, though, I'm going to have to look at that. I haven't really looked at the bracket with that in mind yet.
Yeah, I don't. No,
at first glance, I didn't look at one that I was like, oh, that's a killer.
I badmouth South Carolina.
Yeah.
Now they get a chance to make amends, too. I should stop talking about the teams that have a chance to play against the local teams.
Yeah, stop doing that.
But
quit jinxing it. I don't like it.
How's South Carolina going to score?
That's a good question. That's the constant question. We'll ask Nick Bahe coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're also on KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Joining us now is one Nick Bahe, Fox Sports college analyst. Nick, how are you this morning?
I'm great. Best time of year. Of course I'm great. Hopped out of bed like it was Christmas morning, man. This is awesome. Got a lot of film to to watch, a lot of things to dive into. But yeah, I'm doing awesome.
All right. So if we're in the gift giving mood and you're checking under the tree, man, who do you think got kind of one of the better gifts, right? Whether it's where they were seated, whether it's their draw. It's Christmas morning for basketball folks, man. Who got a gift? You know who I think kind of got a bit of a gift?
Who?
Kentucky. I look at the bottom half with Oakland. They're going to get a hurt Florida team potentially that they're familiar with, and who knows what happens with Marquette and Western Kentucky down there.
Yeah, great call. Kentucky was one that came to mind just because, like, you could argue that the health status of Tyler Kolek is one of the bigger storylines for the entire NCAA tournament. Like, you tell me Tyler Kolek is close to 100%. I think that's a team that's got a pretty decent path to square off against Houston for a chance to go to a Final Four. But like you mentioned, Florida, big injury yesterday.
That was gross.
Brutal. Marquette, who knows how Kolek's going to feel, hasn't played in a couple of weeks. I think Arizona's got a decent path. I'll be honest with you, and I'm sorry, Damon, you're a North Carolina lover. There isn't really any team in the West that I'm like, man, I love that team.
Yeah, you could make the case, and I would listen, if you told me that the West has the weakest of the top 4 seeds.
That's what I think.
The weakest 1, the weakest 2, the weakest 3, the weakest 4.
That's exactly how I see it. Now, I'm not saying there aren't dangerous, capable teams in that region. In fact, I think that 6-11 game between Clemson and New Mexico is going to be a hell of a game, and either of those teams could make a run. I've seen New Mexico 3 times, guys. They are, when it's right, it's really right, but man, they are incredibly undisciplined at times. When the shots are going, Jalen House is about as fun of a player to watch as you can imagine. But he also, like, dude is going down swinging.
Yep.
This weekend, he's either going to put 30 up in multiple games, or homeboy is going to be like 3 for 34.
And I don't think Clemson is that good. I've been kind of on them the last 2 weeks, so they got it. I could see why New Mexico's favored.
Yes, I that's a game that I think New Mexico is going to win that game, but I throw in that caveat of, like, New Mexico is also a little crazy. Okay, like they can have some moments where you're like, whoa, slow down. But, like, their 3 guards, Jamal Mashburn Jr., Jalen House, Donovan Dent, like, those 3 guys are really good players, and guards matter this time of year. I like them. But yeah, so I'd say, even though I don't love that Arizona team, Dayton, I thought their resume was a little light. Nevada, I think of all the Mountain West teams, I was maybe the most lukewarm on them. I think Arizona's got a decent path, and then you look at the rest of the West region, and it's not great. But you're totally right, Damon. Kentucky, I think, got an interesting path as well. They're another team that when it's right, it's amazing. I mean, you could make an argument, and I think it's an easy one to make, that raw talent, just nothing more than just raw talent. Kentucky's potentially got the most talented team in the NCAA tournament. It's just, can they guard anybody will remain to be seen.
We're talking with Nick Bahe, Fox Sports basketball analyst. Nick, we like to call those New Mexico teams high variance. That's what we call them. No, I wanted to ask you about Creighton's draw. Obviously, they get Akron in the first round. How do you look at that Midwest region in general? Because I think Creighton fans, and probably rightfully so, are kind of looking at, okay, how do we get back to maybe Elite Eight? How do we get back to an opportunity to go to the Final Four again? How do you look at their path to that regional final as doable for them?
Well, very manageable. I will say I'm not so sure that their toughest game wouldn't be their Sweet 16 game. I think Tennessee is maybe the best team in that region. I think Creighton would match up with Purdue really well. And who doesn't want to see Zach Edey and Kalkbrenner?
Right. I mean,
I want to see it so bad. Picture first possession of the game, Purdue runs their little high-low. It goes into Edie, and Big Caulk is right there. Let's go. Let's see what happens here. You know,
I'm telling you though, if Utah State gets past TCU, Utah State will give that is not a good matchup.
Hey, and Damon, I saw so Utah State's big guy, Great Osibor. He was the Mountain West Conference Player of the Year. I did the Big Sky Championship game last year when he was playing. Montana State won with Danny Sprinkle and those guys. So I saw Darius Brown, their guard, and Great Osibor. And I left that game being like, those two dudes can play anywhere. So I'm not that surprised to see them go to Utah State with Danny Sprinkle and have their success. I say all that to say you're right on in that I think a Great Osibor versus Zach Edey would be very, very interesting.
Yeah, Purdue didn't get any favors there. That if Utah State gets past TCU, they're a much better matchup for Purdue. That's I got my eye on that one because everybody kind of has Purdue penciled in. I don't know, man. Utah State is tough.
Yeah, they are. And listen, TCU played nobody in the non-con, but they were. I had them against Georgetown. They got dudes. They're deep. They're athletic. But to circle it back to Creighton. Kansas, who knows what Kansas is going to be like, too. Kansas is a big, we talk about Tyler Kolek and his health status. You could argue that also Kevin McCullough Jr. and Hunter Dickinson and how they are an enormous variable for what this NCAA tournament's going to look like. Because if you tell me if Kansas has a healthy Hunter Dickinson and a healthy Kevin McCullough, I think Kansas is going to be a major factor in this thing. But they have been just leaking here for a couple of weeks. So we'll see what happens with him. With Creighton, with Akron, I'm not sure how much you guys have dove into them.
Yeah.
3 of their 5 starters were in the NCAA tournament 2 years ago. So they got experience. I think that matters this time of year. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Their best player is their 6'7" 5-man, Enrique Freeman, who is 4-time MAC All-Defensive Team. He was the MAC Defensive Player of the Year and the MAC Player of the Year this year. And he can step out and shoot it a little bit, but I think this is where having Kalkbrenner is huge. That I watching some film last night, I'm looking at him going to work in the post, and it's just going to be, I think, challenging for him to score with his back to the basket over Ryan Kalkbrenner. But this team is experienced, and they've been there. They're older as well. And then Oregon, South Carolina, of course, like my heart is like when I saw Oregon, I was like, oh, no.
Hey, that was a heck of a call you gave us. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago when
you're like, hey, don't be surprised. I mean, this is what Dana does.
I'm telling you, I don't know what it is. I can't even necessarily – there's something about his personality that really lends itself. I'm sure, Damon, you get it. So do you, Ravi, of like coaching from a certain position. Mm-hmm. Like – he's really good when you go to a conference tournament and it is like survive or it's over.
Quick turnaround, yeah.
Like he's good at that. He's good at getting because he's so damn intense. He's good at getting you to feel like every little I think I had like 3 rebounds in the Valley Finals, and I pulled those rebounds down like I was
Charles Barkley.
I pulled those things down, outletted it to Funk, and when I came off the floor, Dana, punches me in the chest and is like, "Here we go, Bah! Get on those boards," and like that to win a conference tournament. Like every little when you're playing for your life, every little thing adds up. So Oregon's unique. They're hot. They'll play some matchup zone. I'm sure you guys saw Dante and Foley's just, whoa, my God, is he a unique player? And then South Carolina will slow the game down, which is always makes for an interesting matchup too.
I don't love the way they shoot it, man. They are a hard watch. I couldn't, but so there's 2 6s that I was surprised. South Carolina's 1, and I still can't believe Clemson's a 6. But going back to Kansas, they got the weakest 5 of the bunch too, and Gonzaga potentially if Gonzaga beats McNeese State, because McNeese State can score.
How is Gonzaga a 5? Like it's name recognition, right? Like what are we doing here? It's like a bubble team.
I like the Kansas thing with health because that path is not like, oh boy, until maybe what I mean.
You tell me Kansas is healthy. I think Kansas has a great shot to be in that regional final.
Well, their starting five is as good as almost anyone.
Yes, I mean if they're really they're four. Like if basketball was played 4-on-4, Kansas is a 1 seed, But
Furphy is good with the other guys, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think, but to your point, I was very surprised Gonzaga was a 5. They went to the West Coast Conference tournament, and I was kind of like, they don't need to win this, do they? Like that crept
they're fortunate they beat Kentucky.
I kind of thought they needed to win it a little bit.
Yes, the committee, and listen, it's easy to sit here and every year everybody's like, the committee, I mean, what are they doing? But this year in particular, it really was, there were a lot of puzzling things, Gonzaga being one of them. Even I was surprised to see New Mexico. I thought New Mexico, when New Mexico got to the Mountain West Championship, I thought, oh, they're in. Oh, no, clearly they needed to win that game. But I also think it was unprecedented with all the, with Duquesne and NC State and Oregon and UAB. It was fairly unprecedented in the amount of bid thieves that happen in conference tournaments. But yeah, Gonzaga, they're going to have their hands full with McNeese, and then Samford presses too, Damon. Samford will press, which will make it interesting to see how KU and McCullough and those guys are doing. But yeah, the committee was head scratching to say the least.
Yeah. So so there's two things in there that I'm glad we got. Number one, I told Ravi early, I said, we worry too much about the last 4 to not get in. The bigger problem was the seeding, right? We don't spend enough time talking about how teams are seeded. We always talk about how they aren't there, because this was arguably the most head scratching year. And I'll say this because you're the perfect guy to answer. And along those lines, I said, one of the teams I think is grossly underseeded is Boise State. When you look at, I watched them probably 4 or 5 times, and I think 10. How is Boise a 10? Like, number one, you can speak to Boise a little, and like, how important in this one do you think the seeding will actually turn out, especially anything after like 4 on down?
I mean, I think you talk to any coach, and I think some people roll their eyes and they think it's like, a cliche or an excuse or whatever. But honestly, your matchup is everything. Your path is everything. It's not necessarily about the seeding, but who is there. But the reason that makes a difference is because of different teams getting seeded in different spots. I mean, Boise State's a top 30 defense. They're another group that's experienced. Tyson Degenhart is a baller, and he's a matchup problem at 6'8", and he can step out and shoot it. He can post. He can drive it. I was surprised to see Boise State. I mean, clearly the committee wasn't as into the Mountain West as everybody else was, right? Boise gets a play-in game. New Mexico wins the tournament, and they're in
Colorado State. Yeah.
I think I think you could make a case that Auburn maybe was a little bit better than a 4. They could have maybe gotten down to that 3 area.
You talk about a streaky team. When they get going, like, they're almost unlikable. They're so hard to. They're having so much fun clowning. It's like,
that's like the Bruce Pearl thing, though, right? Like, that's what he does.
They're capable. Boy, they get hot.
I'm telling you, I had Yale at Kansas in late December, and I'm telling you guys, that team's legit.
You like Wolf?
Yale is good. They got a 7-footer, Danny Wolf.
Yep.
This dude is a unicorn. Like, can handle it. Not like, we say like, oh, 7. Look at this 7-footer. He can dribble twice and get through a track. Like, no, this dude can Hardaway cross. He can, like, in and out, spin off guys. Like, he is good. They're older around them. They can shoot it. Yale's a team that I think has got a chance to potentially get through to the second weekend of the tournament. And then I'll give you one more. I don't even know what our initial question was, but I'll give you one more.
It doesn't matter.
Hey, am I crazy to think that Drake could get out this weekend?
So I told Ravi, I'm kind of a Pac-12 dork. Washington State's a tough matchup, and if Drake can get enough stops, They're in a good spot because they play so fast.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure who from Wazoo is going to guard Tucker, but if their shots, and they're kind of, I mean, a good shot is an open shot, so they get them up. But man, if they get past Washington State, I'm with you. It looks good, but Washington State is going to be. It's a tricky matchup the way they play, though.
I agree. I think the one thing that when not that this totally matters, because you could have made the same case about Doug a couple of years ago, and Creighton couldn't punch all the way through, but I think you can say confidently Drake will have the best player on the floor in both games this weekend.
Yeah.
That matters.
He's pretty sensational.
Like,
he's fearless. He's fearless.
Yes. And keep in mind the thing, and this is what's so interesting about the NCAA tournament in general, is like you remember last year, FAU, if Memphis doesn't puke on themselves, pee their pants, and crap their pants, they had to do all three for FAU to win their first round game, and they go to the Final Four.
Yeah.
Drake has Miami beat last year.
Yep,
Straight up beat. And Drake pees their pants in the final minute of the game, and Miami goes to the Final Four. So to tie it back to Drake, it's largely the same cast of characters that should have beaten a team that went to the Final Four a year ago. And even though I have an amazing amount of respect for what TJ Otzelberger is doing at Iowa State, I mean, it's amazing the toughness that he's getting that group to play with.
Yeah, they guard, don't they?
Oh, man, they are tough. They are really good. But it ain't like it's not like Iowa State's got like a lottery pick.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I'm saying is you're good when Drake takes the floor, like the discrepancy in just like overall talent isn't the Grand Canyon. It's closer than it looks. I think they get coached up a little bit. So I don't know. I kind of look at Drake and I'm like, now maybe I'm just got some DeVries love pumping through me, but like I think Drake's got a chance, man.
He's one of the few guys that I have kind of like a total blind spot for, right? It does, like you could say, I don't know. Like I'll probably defend DeVries just about every day.
I mean, I've known that guy for 20 plus years. I think he's awesome. I think he's really good.
Total blind spot. Does Duke get enough stops for you to not be concerned about them against Vermont?
Yeah, I tell you what, I don't love Duke, but I was in Vermont this weekend. I did Vermont and UMass Lowell's championship game, and I didn't walk away blown away by Vermont either.
Yeah.
They're very well coached. I mean, John Becker, they're like the Gonzaga of the Upper East Coast. I mean, they are like, it is a dynasty that they have going. I don't know if Vermont, they lack size. They're a little banged up inside. I'm just not sure they're going to be able to slow down Filipowski and everybody inside. I mean, that old pod, Wisconsin and James Madison's a fascinating game. I would have leaned James Madison, but I kind of liked what Wisconsin looked like this weekend.
Me too.
But because that'll be a trendy pick. I'm not sure if I'm necessarily going to pull that trigger. So it's tough. I don't love Duke, but I do think Wisconsin's going to have a tough game. So who punches out of that 14 pod will be interesting too.
That's amazing because last week I liked James Madison a ton till I saw the draw, and I get the seed numbers too, so it'll be popular.
Yeah.
But Wisconsin's playing really well, and I think they found like kind of that snake action. Like they're what they're doing offensively, they're really starting to settle into too.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you knew the personnel was, it was in them, and they just kind of put it together. And I think that matters. I think playing well this time of year makes a difference. And I think Wisconsin, even though they lost yesterday to Illinois in the championship game, I'd have to imagine they're puffing their chest out pretty good right now.
Isn't Illinois scary to watch sometimes? Like what they do offensively?
I told you guys
they got options.
I told you guys a couple of weeks ago that they're one of those teams that I really like. I think Illinois, if they weren't in UConn's region, I would 100% take Illinois to the Final Four. But unfortunately, I think UConn's going to knock them out in the Elite Eight.
Nick, speaking of Illinois, we've talked about Brad Underwood quite a bit and how at least I don't trust him as far as I could throw him in terms of I'm not enamored with his coaching. Is there a team that you're like, man, I really like the talent, I like how they look, but you're like, man, I'm not 100% sure this guy's going to be out coaching somebody on their way to a Final Four or a national championship? Because DB and I looked at it. The only real outlier in terms of national championships as far as coaches is Kevin Ollie. Yeah. Outside of that, you're either really good or an all-timer.
It's a great question. I'm trying to just like look through the bracket right now and see
the names that pop to mind. Obviously, Brad Underwood.
We did an exercise like 3 weeks ago.
Rick Barnes.
And there were very, very few, if any, outliers in terms of Cal was kind of an outlier. And we were like, but we think he's a good. No, we don't.
But that's how
Ollie was the most. That's how good the coaches that have won it are.
Is that Cal might be the outlier? Like Coach Cal might be the outlier, and that's how good all the other coaches. Like Hurley and Calipari are the next biggest outliers after Ollie. So I'm looking at like Rick Barnes. I'm looking at Brad Underwood. I'm like, I'm looking at. I mean, Tommy Lloyd. I'm like, is that guy really winning a national title?
I mean, I think the first one, he was the first guy that came to my mind, but I just don't know if that's a product of he hasn't had an opportunity to show you that he can do it yet, you know? Having seen Princeton, because that's who Princeton beat them last year. So Princeton beat Arizona in the first round, and then Creighton saw Princeton. Once I saw Princeton in person, like I was like, oh, I could kind of see how this team could get you. You know, like unique style. Tosan Awoma, I'm not sure if you guys remember their 5-man that was really good at the top of the key with backdoors and stuff. Like he got a 10-day contract. Like Princeton had an NBA player. Like, so I guess I left that game being like, I get it with Arizona and how they lost. I would say Tommy Lloyd jumps out at me. I've even though he's made some decent runs. He went to the Final Four a couple of years ago. I'm not sure on Bruce Pearl. Would maybe be one guy for me. I'm not.
I could buy that.
Totally like all in on him on the sidelines doing his thing. But you're right. It is interesting when you stop for a second and think about who ultimately is left standing at the end of this thing. Very rarely are you ever left going, well, I don't know about that, coach.
Hey, does your gut real quick, Nick, tell you that Nebraska can keep Mighty Mouse out of the paint or Taylor IV out of the paint?
Yeah. I think so, especially with the fact that you're not as worried about his ability to shoot the three. There should be people just clogging that lane up.
Imagine if A&M can't pass out of the double. They're in trouble.
Yeah. Interesting matchup. You can build a case that'll make you want to go get a bottle of whiskey and go, oh my God, this isn't good. You can also build a case where it makes you going to go get a bottle of champagne and go, ooh, we're going to be celebrating later this week. You know, I mean, because Texas A&M doesn't shoot it well, and that's a large part, a huge key in beating Nebraska. You're going to be able to get threes, and they're one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the country. They rank 352nd in the country in 3-point shooting. There are 362 teams. Okay, guys. So, we're talking about arguably the worst 3-point shooting team in the country. And then the other thing is a big part, just the 3-point line in general is big for Nebraska to get you to dork out with some KenPom analytics. So Texas A&M gives up 37% of their points given up are from the 3-point line, okay? That ranks 10th most in the country. So A&M gives up a lot of threes. And so Nebraska, I think Nebraska, if they're making their threes and A&M shoots how they're supposed to be shooting, I think you're looking at history being made for the program. But offensive rebounding, best team in America, A&M, that could be a great equalizer. And then the other thing I said it about some of these teams, experience matters. A&M basically returns their entire team from a year ago, and they were in the NCAA tournament a year ago. They lost to Penn State, but they were there. I'll be interested when Rink Mass, Josiah Alec, Bryce Williams, Keisei Tominaga, Juwan Gary, when they step on the floor, what's their anxiety level at? Like, I think A&M will be the more comfortable team, Now Nebraska's got to settle in as soon as they can. But I think the more I've looked at it, the more I think it's a pretty favorable draw for Nebraska. But that doesn't mean that this isn't going to be a war, because it is.
Nick, we appreciate the time as always. I'll be hoping that your anxiety level's not too high with Creighton, Oregon, and Kansas all in the same region. I'll be praying for you, brother. I hope you're okay. Hope you can get out of that thing with your blood pressure intact.
I will hope so as well. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Nicholas Allen.
We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, where we're at least 500% better than anything else you could be doing this morning as you either get started at work or on your way to work, whatever you want to do. Just having a good time here at Hurrdat Sports Radio. Want to tell you about the Warhorse Sportsbook Prop Card Challenge, $100,000 prop card challenge for the semifinals and final game of the tournament. 25 prop questions, get 18 or more correct to win cash or free play. You can earn daily entries through the 28th. That means a $50 sports book bet or 50 points earned on slots or racing. Of course, you do have to be a Warhorse Rewards member as well. You'll make your prop card selections online and make sure you activate those entries between April 1st and April 5th. Also, with the bracket challenge, make sure you are getting your picks in. You've got until the 20th. That's 2 more days to make your picks for the bracket challenge for your chance to win $1 million. That's Warhorse Bracket Challenge, Warhorse Prop Card Challenge. You can get all the details at warhorsecasino.com. Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory. DB, how we doing? We doing all right?
We're good.
We're doing good?
Yeah, I am gonna go to my my settings thing.
Yeah, see what we can figure out here.
So back to it's great to talk to him because we not that we agree on a lot of things, but he's seen a lot of the same teams that I kind of like.
Mm-hmm.
That Boise team is pretty interesting, and I do like if Drake can get past Iowa State. Or not Iowa State, Washington State.
You like their matchup with Iowa State?
I do.
Yeah.
Because Iowa State, now they're going to shut you down,
mm-hmm.
but they have a really hard time scoring.
There's a lot of Virginia in them.
And
they're better at it this year.
Their dribble drive game, Drake,
mm-hmm.
they get to some spots on the floor. D-Rock is really good offensively.
Mm-hmm.
The other
Which is funny because he made his bones on defense.
Yeah. The other thing,
mm-hmm.
Are you trending towards a 12-5? Because I'm really, I know.
You know the numbers.
Yeah.
I don't know that I love one.
I mean,
I don't know that I love one of the matchups. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Honestly, the Gonzaga one's probably the one that I'm most interested in.
Yeah, and I don't know.
I don't either. I haven't seen McNeese enough to feel good about that.
They're going to want to play in a way that's advantageous to Gonzaga.
So I mean, you're hoping just you make more shots than Gonzaga at that point, which I don't know that I haven't seen enough of McNeese State. I'd basically just be picking against Gonzaga, which I don't love doing. And when I'm making picks is just picking against a team I don't like if I'm not super familiar with their matchup. So that's a concern for me. I don't know that there are a lot of 12-5s that
I know New Mexico is going to be popular at the 11-6.
Yeah, I think the 11-6s there's a lot of those. But if James Madison had gotten somebody else besides Wisconsin, like if James Madison had gotten Gonzaga, you're taking that 12-5?
Maybe.
I like that a little bit.
I like the way James Madison
plays. Yeah, you like James
plays.
Madison. You're not super high on Gonzaga.
I just don't know. I just don't think they can speed Wisconsin up.
No, I know it's going to be hard. I don't look at any of the 12-5s and be like, yeah, that's the obvious one.
But I do think Will Wade has a lot of good players at McNeese State. And why he's still coaching Division I basketball, I don't know.
No one knows.
But, it is what it is.
Everything he did was basically legal now, so.
He lied a lot to, federal investigators. That usually
that part's not as legal.
Usually gets people in trouble.
Yeah, he usually ends up within prison.
But
I don't know. We'll see. Are there any? Do you like any? Because we've seen a little bit of trend of 4s and 13s. Are there any 13s you're kind of leaning at? Because you don't love Alabama, do you?
No, but I do think You have to be familiar with Alabama's style. Do I think Charleston can win? No, I don't think Sanford can get.
What about Yale?
I don't.
Nick brought that one up.
I don't like it.
You don't like that one?
And we watched Yale Brown yesterday as a family.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't go off of that game and say like, yeah, Yale can beat Auburn.
But I knew he was talking about Wolf though, because
for sure,
like he's pretty sweet. But I don't really see that. Auburn plays with so many guys.
Yeah.
And they play fast.
They play like super chaotic.
Now they didn't
style.
start getting any quad 1 wins until the SEC tournament.
Pretty deep.
I think they were 1-8 going into that thing, or 1-7.
Yeah.
In quad 1 games. How many? I bet you they don't have more than 3 quad 1 wins, do they? Unless they racked them up in the SEC tournament, because they were going in with only. I think they were 1-7 in quad 1.
We'll look that
wins
up for you, DB.
Heading into the SEC tournament, so they hadn't beaten a lot of good.
They've only got 3 total.
Yeah, and they got 2 of them in the SEC. Thank you, DB. What's up?
Nailed it.
Well, because I looked at them as kind of a sneaky pick, and I'm like, nah, they can't be.
Because they haven't played anybody.
Because they haven't played anybody.
Yeah.
Because there's some people that wanted to take a flyer on them in the SEC tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, they're going to do something they don't normally do.
Yeah,
but it was a neutral site.
Mississippi State and Florida were their
the other
quad 1 wins. So they were 1-7.
So I don't love that one. Who's my other 13-4?
Your other 13-4. Okay.
I'm missing one.
Vermont Duke. Did you say that one? You didn't say that
I
one?
didn't say that one. I don't love Duke. Although they fit a lot of the metrics to make a run. They're probably like they're not in the top tier, but second tier.
No, you kind of eyeball them. You don't feel great about it.
No, I don't think they can slow Duke down.
Vermont, yeah, probably not. And I don't think they can outscore them. Like that's not a track meet. They're going to win.
A game could be mucky though. Wouldn't surprise me if it's played like, 70-58, something like that.
Yeah, like they just try to make it as ugly as possible for them.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that.
But no, I don't love any 13-4. I don't really love any 12-5s.
No, there's not a lot of your traditional upset seeds that you feel good about.
And plus, with
a lot of 6-11, 7-10 mess,
which is what screwed up some of the seedings with the bid stealers.
Yeah,
but this may be a cleaner bracket
than people think.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that earlier because there might be a little chaos in like we said
8, 9, 7, 10s.
I'll even go 6-11. So like the 6 through 11 seeds might be a little chaotic, but it would pretty aggressively surprise me.
BYU, Duquesne, you like BYU?
Yeah.
You think NC State's beating Texas Tech?
I don't coin flip. I don't know. I don't feel good about Texas Tech.
Oregon, South Carolina.
See, that's hard because I don't. Oregon wasn't a tournament team until yesterday.
I know.
You know what I mean?
What is that game? Probably a pick 'em?
Yeah, that's a coin. I think the 6-11s.
What did Vegas make it? Do you know? I'm gonna look.
I can look real quick
because I would imagine that line is pretty tight.
1.5.
Yeah. Okay.
South Carolina by 1.5.
That makes sense.
So I mean, I think you're going to get the 6-11s are all going to be. I mean, what's the other one? Clemson. We know New Mexico's
2
favorite on Clemson.
So you have a 2, a 1.5.
I'm checking Texas Tech, NC State because I don't know what the Texas Tech is 4.5 there. That's probably the biggest spread on the 6-11s.
Oh, that is tight.
Duquesne and BYU.
No, that's the biggest spread.
Yeah, 8.5. BYU's 8.5.
Okay.
But I mean, I would feel dramatically better about the chaos in the 6 through 11 seeds. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 versus, I don't know. I look at the top seeds and of course they'll probably be totally wrong now. We'll have like 3 15 seeds win or something, but probably not. But I wouldn't mind if Coach Lutz took out Marquette for me. Wouldn't be mad about that.
Yeah, it was just funny listening to Shaka Smart. And this isn't a press conference, so don't make fun of me for watching it. It was just an interview.
It was just a different team.
Just a normal interview. It wasn't a presser that I was watching.
It's possible you spent a little too much time listening to coaches talk.
He was throwing a little shade at John Rothstein, who asked him about Kolick. It was the first thing he asked him, maybe before he even said congratulations.
Probably.
And Shaka Smart's, yeah, I could wait for you to text me every day like you've been doing. You're not going to wait for the daily text asking me about the Tyler Kolek situation. But Shaka said he fully expects Kolek to play on Friday, even though he's got to pass some testing protocols. He said he's past the pain portion of it in the oblique. So I think that's a good sign.
I think that's a good sign for Marquette as well. But if he just wants to sit one more game and give my guy Steve Lutz a chance to have a little upset, I'd be okay
funny.
about that.
How about all the folks from Coach Mac's coaching tree represented?
There is a ton, like a lot.
So you got Hendo,
Lutz,
DeVries,
TJ. That's 4. I thought there was another one.
There's a 5th. So Darren, Hendo, Lutz, TJ.
I thought there was one more.
Yeah, there's
Huss didn't make it. They
Okay.
lost in their championship.
Is there 5? 4.
I think it's just 4. I think Huss would have been the 5th.
That's deep.
It's not bad. It's not bad for a guy that people aren't sure. Nationally.
Would you stop?
No, nationally he probably doesn't get the love that he deserves.
Top 10 in the country.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We're wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on a Monday. AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're brought to you by the Team Jack Foundation. Team Jack Foundation has a very simple goal. They are trying to find better treatments for kids fighting brain cancer and one day a cure. In order to help them do that, go to teamjackfoundation.org to donate directly, find events to get involved in, just get more information on what projects they're working on, projects that include partnerships with the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, Memorial Sloan Kettering, and Columbia University. Of course, they get involved right here at home as well with the creation of the Nebraska Childhood Brain Tumor Program at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. That is the Team Jack Foundation. They're trying to find better treatments and one day a cure for childhood brain cancer. Get involved at teamjackfoundation.org. As we wrap up the show here with the little bit of a cleanup, I did want to change gears because I think it's worth mentioning. Obviously, Omaha hockey had a good weekend with a series win against Colorado College. Another team that had a good weekend, Nebraska baseball.
Yes, they did.
They continue to play some quality ball there against Nicholls State this weekend. And I know there's a lot going on. We're not going to spend a ton of time on hockey and baseball this time of year, even though they deserve at least some attention. But, I mean, Nebraska gave it to Nicholls State pretty good over the weekend. That's, 7-6, 16-0, 11-4. Really good.
That's how they kind of have to handle these series as you get ready to start. You're getting ready to start conference play in a couple of weeks. So that would be nice.
Yeah, you got to keep it rolling here. You're not going to get a ton of help in conference play, I don't think, from strength of schedule and whatnot.
Not if early season starts have anything to do with it.
So you're going to have to kind of roll through conference play if you're Nebraska to have a good shot of being where you want to be at the end of the season. And then I mentioned Omaha hockey dropped a really rough game. Was it Friday they blew the lead?
Late, yeah.
Blew the 3-0 lead Friday, go to overtime and lose. I think they were up still 3-2 under a minute left. They give up the equalizer, lose in overtime. You kind of wonder emotionally how a team's going to bounce back from something like that. No problem for the Mavs. They win the next two to win that series against Colorado College and move on to the Frozen Face-Off for the first time since 2005, I believe.
Yeah, let's get it.
That is I know you have an affinity for Omaha, as does the man in charge of Hurrdat has the affinity for Omaha as well.
I haven't seen Dollar Bill in a minute.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, you told me to leave him alone. You said he only had so much bandwidth that he could work
when
with.
Did I say that?
And I was like, this is like 3 weeks ago. That was a total Ravi term, too.
What, bandwidth?
Yeah, you're like, I think he's only got so much bandwidth that he can work with.
Well, I think everybody only has so much bandwidth they can work with.
I didn't think that about me. I was like, wow. Now
I didn't.
I was gone for 5. I was gone for 5 months. We got a gatekeeper.
I remember that conversation. I wasn't talking about you. I wasn't.
Oh,
we'll have to revisit off air.
Okay,
that's fine. No, we've got some good stuff happening locally, obviously, and then Nebraska women and Creighton women also dancing. Would be remiss if we didn't mention that as well. I thought Creighton maybe got a little bit of the short end on their seating.
You talking about women?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No,
Yeah.
the Creighton men are exactly where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
3 seed is, but the women probably deserved a little better than the 7.
Just lack of. I thought they were 6 for sure.
Yeah.
7 seemed a little low, but how would you like to be in? I didn't love their seedings either, and I know you're not going to get in the weeds over going deep into the basketball seedings on that side of the ledger, but Iowa got a brutal draw. LSU's the 3 in Iowa's region.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's by far the most difficult region
to get out of.
Yeah, and I don't think that they were rewarded as the overall number 2.
Yeah, nobody did them any favors there. That is a brutal region to get out of. If they do get out of it, it will be well deserved to get that place in the Final Four.
And I thought, like, for eyeballs, I don't know. It doesn't seem like you gave that one much thought, unless you think more people would potentially want to see.
Do you think they sacrificed eyeballs late to try and get them early?
Maybe.
Because
maybe we're giving them too much credit too on the seedings.
If you're kind of, because I mean, listen, we were starting to get into this in the first segment, and surprise, we got off the rails and got onto something else. But
that might have been your Trev meltdown.
I didn't melt down until like the third segment. Thank you. I was incredibly mature for the first like 35 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
And then I said he can eat one. But I love how the committee's like, oh, we don't really think about storylines and stuff like that. They put Nebraska and Texas A&M together in both tournaments.
Yeah, there's tons of storylines.
And then you got Creighton possibly playing Dana in round 2. Like
South Dakota, Iowa State.
Miss me.
And
yes.
Drake and
miss me with the storylines.
I mean, Pollard, he knows.
Like, just admit, hey, we're producing a television product. We're trying to put together the most, or even back in the day when they put McDermott and Harrison Barnes in round 2. Like, come on.
You
we know what we're doing here. It's fine. Just say it out loud. It's fine.
Why are you bringing up Carolina and Creighton?
You guys won that game.
Just saying, like.
I mean, there was a Kendall Marshall situation there. It was a little rough for you, but.
It cost him the tournament.
Allegedly. We don't know what would have happened. Much like with the rest of Bo Jackson's career. We can never know.
Just so dismissive.
I actually really liked Kendall Marshall.
I still like Grant Gibbs, though.
I do too. I really liked Kendall Marshall. I really liked that Carolina team.
They were.
I
really
thought you said, oh, you really liked Bo Jackson.
No, nobody would ever say that.
I thought you were having a moment.
Shane,
there.
you said you can't see. You didn't say you can't hear.
I can't see anything.
I can't read.
Well, we knew that already, but that's not related to the eyesight, I don't think.
For like are you a watch it in now? Princeton was standing when I met you at AR-15's.
Yeah, his little
hole in the wall spot.
Yeah.
Are you a go watch games in public kind of guy? You don't mind that stuff, do you?
I don't mind it. I prefer
early, not late.
Yeah. I'm not trying to watch Creighton out somewhere. I'd prefer not to do that.
Yeah. Kind of how I'd be with Nebraska.
Yeah, I actually kind of want to watch Nebraska somewhere because I kind of want to be around it. Like, I want to be around people for that one.
Yeah.
Especially if they win.
Just the vitriol.
Yeah, and also I just want to feel the hatred. Like, I want to go full Sith here and just like feel the hate flowing through me.
Yeah, rounded tater tots on you here. Heard
like,
that?
I want to channel the hate for Trev, and I want to be around all of it, right?
Shane, what else do you want people to eat here besides the tater tots?
Which are fire, I heard.
Oh, they're fire.
Well, you ate here for a month straight.
I ate here for like 3 months straight during football season. I ate here so much.
Yeah.
Just get any like the club sandwiches or anything.
I hadn't
like
eaten
here. It's very, very, very good.
Until like a week ago, I hadn't eaten here since football season because I was here so much.
Yeah.
And it's good, but I was like, I need a little break. It's like, it's not you, it's me. Like, I need a little, but I'm back and I missed it. I know you don't like boneless wings, but I'm a boneless wing guy.
Yeah, you're too old to be making conscious efforts to eat that. I mean, no disrespect to anybody that order all the food you can but you already know I like the food here. But of all the
Yeah.
things you could get, like
I like boneless wings.
popcorn chicken is amazing.
Listen, you're
Is an
talking to the
amazing
same
choice.
guy that has a professional chef wife, and when she does volunteer to cook stuff, which is not often, on more than one occasion, I'd be like, "Can I just get some mac and cheese and hot dogs?"
Wow. Which is crazy because as we're going through prices last week,
Yeah,
like meal prices for families and stuff.
Yeah.
And you looked at me and you're like, I'd rather we just go to Mahogany. I'm like, it wasn't even in the discussion. Right? We were talking about like 3 for $10.99s and 2 for $25s, and you went all the way to Mahogany.
well, because
and also the same guy that said, yeah, I got a good friend. He runs V-Merts, and like sometimes they just give us unopened or open bottles of wine, just like because they can't resell them. I was like, oh, it's the kind of crowd we're rolling with.
dude, Matt Brown's my guy.
He's
He's the man.
we're just that's how we're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're standing on business for old chili salsa, huh?
Dude, you saw the response
That
on
was
Twitter.
that was unbelievable.
Like people are riding for chili salsa. It's so good. Listen, I'm like you. You say, hey, we don't like some of the people that say certain things, but you find truth in it anyway.
Yeah.
I'll find good food anywhere.
Yeah.
Chili salsa is one of them.
No, I'm with you.
I'll ride with that.
And you like it because of its
I like the texture, the consistency of it is really good.
Gotcha.
It's all blended up. You ain't got no chunks in there. You got to worry
leftover onions at the bottom of the salsa
it's all
for you.
blended up. It's incredible.
So you'd be anti-pico,
No, I'm okay with pico, but I prefer the texture of chili stuff better.
like salsa.
Yeah, pico's a little chunky for me.
No, it's a lot.
Yeah, I don't love like biting into a tomato. It's not my favorite like texture food wise.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that with onions.
I don't mind an onion because I'm okay with the crunch, but the problem with an onion is when you bite into it, there's too much. There's like an overwhelming amount of flavor, and so you lose whatever else you're eating. And it's just about the onion at that point. I don't like that. I have strong feelings about
principled
about things.
So principled.
My only point last week was, listen, you've got like a family of 6 or 12. I don't know how many people are in your family anymore. You got a ton of people to feed. It's like the same price for me and the wife just to go
to Mahogany
somewhere I like.
Hey, by the way, I want to apologize to everybody for not having you guys on video for the last half hour. But as Tiger Shark Diver says, Trev stole the video, so blame it on him.
Everything's Trev's fault. That's the nice thing about having a villain now.
And
everything's Trev's fault.
Maybe tomorrow our connection won't keep getting interrupted.
We're working on it. We're trying to hardwire in. We'll figure it out.
Baby steps.
Maybe not. We'll have a show though tomorrow on Hurrdat Sports Radio.